a playlist original.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Back to the Blockbuster with your hosts, Gaius and Jackson, coming off big Oscar Sunday.
Huge
Uh,
Oscar Sunday. What a ceremony that was.
yeah, it was probably, a lot of people were saying it. I mean, I think most people are saying it's probably one of the better ones that we've had in the last few years.
Went pretty
Uh,
smooth.
it went pretty smooth. No slapping.
No
No,
slapping.
I don't think there might be a few jokes that might have didn't land from Jimmy Kimmel in the night. But
Maybe
I
a
think
couple.
for the most part it was like pretty well done and like handled. And
He's a
after
good host,
yeah, I think he's
honestly.
a good host. And then after all the controversy with like what happened last year, and then I don't know if I think it was the year before when they kind of centered the ceremony around like Chadwick Boseman potentially winning after he had passed away, and then Anthony Hopkins ended up winning that award. And like the whole like ceremony was kind of like not as well structured as it could have been. Like the last few years have been rough for the Academy Awards, but
Certainly. So they are probably happy about last night then.
yeah, I think playing it safe because like I know like I think it was Hollywood Reporter or Deadline that said that it was played mostly safe and like kind of didn't really do anything crazy, but I think that's what they needed to do in order to kind of get viewers back. I'm still waiting to see like what the ratings are. I haven't seen it yet. I saw the Last
Mhm.
of Us ratings, which actually held up really well against the Oscars. Uh, but
Okay.
nothing yet for the Oscars.
No, I
I'm
haven't.
yeah, I'm gonna wait and see like what the numbers are because I've been saying this. We talked about the SAG Awards are gonna do this next year. I still think like
Right.
all these awards ceremonies should go to streaming services and not be aired on uh regular TV. Uh,
You're so right, and I cannot wait for that turn of the tide for that to happen. Because as we were just discussing off screen, I don't know, like as a Canadian, it's ABC being an American network, you have to have some sort of subscription to their service to watch it, like without cable TV. It was not a very smooth experience for myself and my buddies who came over to watch it, and I had to switch up locations halfway through to go to my parents' place who had cable. So I
yeah,
cannot wait. I'm sure I'm not alone in this boat, but when it does
yeah,
come to streaming, I can't wait for that when and if it does.
for sure. And and I think it's interesting because they do offer so many alternatives for you to watch it that not on like broadcast TV. But like if you're in a situation like you said, like
Right.
yourself, like all those alternatives aren't helpful if you can't use them like where you live.
E-
So
Ex-
like
exactly. Like, oh, it was so frustrating,
'cause
man.
I
But
thought like saved your day when I was like, oh look, if you just sign up for like Hulu TV and like all these other ones, like you
and
can
I
just do it for
appreciate
trial,
you bailing me out, but it only took me so far. But yeah, I must have tried 18 different options yesterday. But I'm just curious, do you happen to remember what the Last of Us ratings, like the viewership was
I just saw it right now.
off the top of your head?
It said 8.2 million viewers.
Okay, wow.
And they were comparing it to like the first episode to the finale, and it was like I think they said it was like a 75% increase from that first episode to what we got in
Okay.
the season finale. And they were just saying like I think HBO they released a press release that kind of just focused on like the viewership growth episode to episode, and like
Yeah,
that's
massive.
kind of rare. Like I mean, even on cable TV where ratings are a bit better than like network TV,
Right.
um, to have a show that keeps growing like that is amazing. And I think that I think from what I can see, most people are pleased with the finale. But I think now
I
everyone's
know
kind of look.
nothing as of
Yeah,
right now.
I know everyone's looking towards like what season two is going to do and like how much of they're going to what they're going to adapt next. Because I guess there's
Right.
so much more. I was like reading with like part two where there's like it's so much that they were saying that
Hmm.
the great creators are like we don't think that part two is going to like be told over a single season. They might actually like you know do that with like a season two, season three. So I'm glad that they're like taking their time and not trying to like plow through
Cram
all
it
these
in.
things. Cram it,
I
yeah, yeah,
agree. They
yeah.
I feel like just my from my experience with the first 8 episodes that they're kind of I don't want to say they planned this poorly, but they got into a little bit of an issue, at least with me, where we were talking about this yesterday, where the gameplay for the campaign of the first game is around 15 hours, I guess, average, and we only got
Yeah,
9 or 10 hours worth of the show. And I think I would honestly like to see if they break the second game into a couple seasons, which might give them some room to do some original content in there, like not
yeah,
nothing crazy, but I think that could work to their benefit. So it's nice, back to your point, that they're not just trying to get it out as soon as possible. They're thinking of their strategy that bodes well for the future.
I agree.
Did you happen to catch the finale?
I did. You haven't watched it yet, right? So I
Not yet.
did.
I was up till
I
one for the
Yeah, I
ceremony
watched.
up in Canada.
I You know what? I could have watched it after the Oscars because like I told you offline that it airs live out of LA, so it started at 5 p.m.
Right.
And it ended a little after like I think the show still ran long, but it ended a little after like 8:30. I could have maybe watched the finale last night, but I was like I mean watching a three and a
That's a
half
lot of
hours
screen time, like in a
ceremony is
row.
so long, and like I was like, all right, I'll just watch it with fresh eyes this morning. I think you're gonna like it. I mean,
I'm
I don't think
sure.
there hasn't been like a bad episode yet, and like I just love how tight the storytelling is, uh and you have a real genuine connection with like the characters and stuff too. I think it's just really well
Absolutely.
done. And then video game fans should be proud that they have an adaptation they can be like proud of and not like give like side eye to, because that's how most
That's
video
right.
game fans
Yes.
are. I thought that I
Most
thought
certainly.
I think you'll enjoy it. But yeah, we'll have
Yeah,
to
I'm
talk about
excited.
it after you watch it. Well, so we
Definitely.
have a pretty jam-packed show today. But it's all interesting topics, and we're gonna lead off with the Oscars once we get to it. But we have like we didn't get to talk about any of our watches on the last episode because we were just trying to get our Oscar predictions in.
Right.
I'll lead off just with a couple. I
Yeah.
that
You got some good ones in.
both sequels,
Right, right.
both kicking off a really cool box office time in March. We'll talk about one of those box office things later in the episode because a lot of us were very close. I mean, with predictions for Scream 6 as far as how much money it was going to make. Um,
Right.
but like it really is. It feels like March. This March is like summer. Like came early with how many like releases are coming out this month.
Totally.
Like
A
and
lot
not
of
just like
strong movies out right now.
yeah, not just like small little like oh that might do okay. Like genuine like sequels and like franchise IP. Like it feels like it's like June to July instead of
Like
March.
deep into these IPs, we're getting sequels in this month. It's crazy.
Yeah. So I saw Creed 3 actually during its opening weekend, but we didn't talk about it here.
Right.
I mentioned it on the deep dive episode that actually came out today as of this recording because we
Mhm.
did it a little late. It's just really good. I Michael B. Jordan directorial debut, like just really solid. He does some, especially I mentioned it on the other show, but like, he does some stuff with like the climactic fight, which usually in a movie like that it can be so predictable because we know where it's likely going.
Right.
But
You only get two possible outcomes.
yeah, but he does so many cool visual things during it that it like how he goes from like a number of rounds like to like not just kind of show like round after round the same way. He does
Right.
like a really cool visual thing that like when you see it you're like, oh, that's pretty like awesome how he handled it because it actually
Okay.
kind of makes the fight more intimate and more raw and more real. And he also said that he was influenced a lot by like anime. You can tell like that in some of the fight scenes as
I
well.
find that super interesting, actually. Cool that he leaned into that inspiration because a lot of
Yeah.
directors I don't think would.
Yeah, and I think we mentioned. I don't know if I mentioned it with you or who. I think it might have been with you. You know, no mention of Rocky, like at all. Like not even like
Yep, I heard that
not
from
e-
you.
not even a name drop.
Stings, but
But I mean, like I said, I think it's in order for the movie to stand on its own, and I think it was necessary. But from a narrative standpoint, since he did have two movies with him, and that relationship seemed to be like a really real, genuine connection. It would have been nice to kind
mhm,
of like have a throwaway line about where they are. Where they are. I mean,
something.
I know these situations are different, but Scream 6, and this is not giving any away because Nev Campbell's not in it.
Right,
But like,
right.
you got to give someone like that a mention, and they do. So it's like this big thing is missing, and like you have to kind of like acknowledge it. And I think that they
What a
could
weird
have done that here.
coincidence between those two movies at this
I
time.
know.
You know
At
what I
this
mean?
time,
Like,
the
what are the
sequel's released in
chances?
March. I know, right?
Yeah.
Um, but Michael B. Jordan is good as always. Tessa Thompson, also they still have really good chemistry together. And then Jonathan Major is another
The
notch on the
one
belt,
to look
man.
out for.
I know, like
Yeah.
you know,
He looks
I
awesome.
dude, like I can see. I mean, I know this award season's over. I know he has a movie that premiered, I think, at Sundance that will probably get a wider release this year. I can see him getting nominated for an Oscar like very soon. Like he seems like he's on that trajectory of like he's hungry and he like wants it, and like and
Absolutely.
and it seems like it could happen to a better guy. Just watching him in interviews, he seems like really humble and like happy to be there and like cares
That's
about
the
the work.
best.
And like just talking about it from a box office standpoint, 2 weeks of number one with Ant-Man, and then Creed was number one its opening weekend. So he was in like two movies that were number one over the span of 3 weeks,
That
and
is quite
incredible feat.
impressive. Absolutely. And
Yeah,
leading in both of those.
and
Like
leading
that
in both
is
of them.
crazy. Curious, how do you stack up Creed 3 amongst the other two? Where does it rank for you?
So I liked after I thought about it more because I think after I got out of Creed 3, I was like, oh, this one's probably the best one. No, it's still Creed, and then Creed 3, and then Creed 2.
Creed
I
2?
rewatched Creed 2 before this one. I don't know why I didn't watch the first one, but I wanted to watch the second one because I didn't remember a lot that happened in it.
Right.
And it's a total like fan service sequel. Like, you know, you have the whole
Okay.
Ivan Drago thing in there, and then Ivan Drago's son.
Right.
And I mentioned this to someone else. Like, even though this is called Creed 2, I know this is also when we were like kind of focusing on like Rocky being a part of it. And it's not like they like force him in it, but it feels like he's almost a distraction to like who is the movie supposed to actually be about? Is it about Creed or
Okay.
is it about Rocky? And you feel that more in the second one than
Okay.
in the first one. So not that it's a bad movie, it's still pretty good. But yeah, I go
Of
Creed,
course.
Creed 3, Creed 2.
Yeah, I'm
In
due
that
for a
order.
rewatch of the second before the third too. It's been a while since I've seen either of the first two, so I'm a little bit
Yeah.
out of touch.
And you know what, guys? I haven't thought about where this all fits into the greater scheme of all the Rocky movies. Maybe I will come back in because I haven't seen some of them in a bit, so it wouldn't be fair for me to rank them the
Right.
way I'm feeling now. But I eventually will come back to it and let you guys know.
A
And then other than
task for
that,
a rainy day.
yeah, definitely. And other than that, I saw Scream 6. I saw it once at a press screening last Tuesday, and then again on Thursday with like a real audience. But honestly, dude, I made that comment about how stuffy the press screening was for the last one.
Yep.
This one was way
Right.
different. I mean, this one was like it was press people, but
Nice.
they were all having a good time. It was like a really fun,
Excited to be there. Yeah.
yeah, excited to be there, and then seeing it with a real crowd the second time was also 10 times more fun than that. Even though that experience was really fun, like seeing it with like actual like fans and like people that aren't
Nothing beats
invested
that
in reviewing
atmosphere.
it.
It's all good
Yeah,
energy, right? And like
yeah,
that, I love an experience. Like around here, we don't. It's not too often we get a crowded theatrical experience like that. I find, especially like the movies that I'm going to, like little A24 movies that released, like The Whale had like 5 people in there,
yeah,
stuff like that. But like Top Gun, for instance, was a good experience because it was like
packed.
packed,
Yeah,
but we don't get that as often. So I can only
yep.
imagine how awesome Scream 6 must have been in a crowded theater.
Yeah, and I think everyone was pumped too for like we talked about it before, the location change. Like I think that there's the Jenna Ortega factor, and we're gonna talk about her later.
Big time.
And there was a lot. I think there was a lot. I think I don't know if you couldn't really tell when the last one came out. Like it came out, it did well. I think people were happy enough with it. Um, but it seemed like when this movie got announced and people talked about like, oh, it's going to be in New York and like all this other stuff, and then of course there was all this speculation of like, is it going to be affected a lot by like Nev Campbell not being in it, and then the reasons why she's not in it because it's more of like a business decision on her end, which makes perfect sense for her.
Yep.
Um, how that was going to affect the movie, but like it didn't. I mean, it seems like Scream fandom is as big as it ever was, and
Right. If not bigger with the new
if
gen
not,
now.
yeah, if not bigger. And like I mean, I'm not giving anything away because you haven't seen it, and we're actually going to have an episode where we just talk about Scream because
Right.
the Scream episodes do really well for Back to the Blockbuster, so we're going to try to keep that try to keep that going.
Definitely.
But I will say, what I will say is that like the new characters, it feels like more their movie, and I think that's for the better of like things for this film and moving forward. Like you can't constantly kind of live on like the past, like not like the past isn't represented because it is, but like
Right.
you couldn't have those people that you got introduced to in the previous movie and not flesh them out more and not kind of put them a bit more center stage.
Right.
And the movie's better for it, I think.
I think so too. One of the things I remember like when I was watching Five is that I really felt like your legacy cast and the new cast were fighting for screen time, and because of that,
Yeah.
it kind of divided. Like neither one of them, I don't think, got like as much as they needed to really buy into either one of their stories. So
Yeah.
glad to hear. It sounds like they really like went in the right direction for 6. So I'm excited. As of this recording, I'll be checking it out tomorrow night, Tuesday night, and I'm really excited.
Yeah, so it should be a fun one. It'll be a fun discussion. I mean, it depends on how you come out of it. If you come out of it like you did with the last one, I'm like,
Right.
oh, this is not good. But
Hey, we'll see.
we'll-
I'll be lenient with it. I'm not gonna. I think I did a disservice to myself by going into 5 so out of touch with the previous series. I'm a
Yeah,
little bit more invested now, so
yeah,
I'm expecting a little bit a different reaction. But I'll keep it honest.
yeah, for sure. And that's all I want from you.
Yeah,
It works out for the best myself.
exactly. That's how I'll keep it. But I won't be too
um,
harsh, no matter what.
all right. What about you? Did you get anything since the last time we
Yeah, I got a
spoke?
lot of good watches in. Mostly like Oscar stuff that I had to get in before the ceremony that was nominated. A few big ones I hadn't got in. I'll try to keep it tight just because I know we have a lot of stuff to get through this episode. But there's some stuff that most of my watches tie into the Oscar conversation anyway, so it'll be a good
Yeah,
segue whenever we talk about last night's ceremony. A few things I wanted to point out. I watched Elvis and Blonde last week, Saturday and Sunday, back to back. And I gotta say, I feel it's criminal how each of those movies was received. I feel so they're very different movies, of course, but like
yeah.
similar in the sense they're both biopics about really
Famous
famous, iconic
figures.
Americans.
Yeah.
I feel Blonde did everything right where Elvis did everything wrong. I'm not gonna
Hot
be
takes. Hot takes.
maybe it's a
On
hot
deck.
take. Well, exactly. Well, I mean, Elvis was shut out last night, and I gotta say I'm
Yeah.
fine with that. It other than Austin Butler, who was I think the one thing I took away from that movie that I enjoyed. It's not to say that it's a badly made movie. It's just Baz Luhrmann's style I discovered for myself was not for me. Thought the
Yeah.
editing was a nightmare. I did not like how it was edited. I honestly found it hard to get into the movie because like the average shot length of Elvis was like between 3 to 4 seconds long, maybe at least for the first half of the movie. So I didn't even feel like I was getting anything like performance wise, even from Austin
Yeah.
Butler. The camera doesn't stay with anyone for longer than 3 seconds, and then you're from here to there, like all over the place, like a bunch of visuals thrown at you all over the place. It was really hard to get into. I actually started folding laundry in the middle of it. Like I could not get into Elvis, man. It just was not for me. I
Oh
do
man.
believe Austin deserved that nomination. He was incredible as Elvis. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Not for me. And then so I went right from Elvis to Blonde, and I was blown away at just I think I just like the way that Blonde tackled the biopic story a little bit more of a traditional way. It
Right.
also did some really cool visual stuff. Like Andrew Dominic was like took some experiments behind the camera and did a lot of some weird, almost like psychedelic effects in a couple scenes. Also, I know Elvis or Blonde has been like a really hotly debated movie and like
Yeah.
the mainstream and the public discourse since its release. And I gotta say, I don't get it. I know that it was not 100% accurate depiction of Marilyn Monroe's life. I get
Yeah.
that part. It was also though adapted from a book. I don't feel like it tried to like come out and say that it was like an original
No.
or
So it
depiction.
yeah, it was always put out there, and I think some people know that and don't, and some don't. That it was
Right.
like a fictionalized biopic. So like that's why there's some
Exactly.
liberties taken with her
Yep.
life, and like, and I accepted that.
People didn't like
So
that.
yeah, yeah, like it.
I
Yeah,
thought it actually worked to service the story, and like it did not for a minute try to inaccurately portray Marilyn Monroe's life. She's very much a tragic figure. There's not a glimmer of hope throughout that
no,
movie. You are just like feeling for her the entire time. You go behind some doors that we don't know about in real life, and I feel like it does its best to try and paint the picture of what may have happened in some like dark places of her life that we don't know about. And
yeah,
I thought it did really good service to her as a person. I really enjoyed it. It was another one though that I enjoyed that was tough to recommend. Like it was a hard watch in some places. Like I gotta
yeah.
say,
It
it was
is.
like dark, but I
Yeah,
really did enjoy it. Anna deserved to be up there. Again, strong year. I don't know if I'd give it to her, but she deserved that nomination for sure. But I've been dying to talk about those two movies, man, because they're so similar. And I felt like very much on the opposite end of the spectrum for
yeah.
how like
You
the
set it
public
up
felt
really
about those
well too.
movies.
Set it up real well. Like I thought you were gonna like surprise me, like I actually loved both of them, and then you were like, nope.
No.
Elvis not so
I
much.
honestly like, yeah, I don't know when I'll get back to Elvis or if I'll go back to see it. Maybe in the future if I want to like go through Baz Luhrmann's filmography, but I just didn't feel an inkling to get back to it. It wasn't for me. Blonde though, you got to be in the right mindset to watch that one again. But it was a
Yeah,
really well, regardless of the story and what you think about like the liberties taken with Marilyn's life, it was an objectively amazingly helmed movie technically.
yeah,
And looked gorgeous. I think robbed of a cinematography nomination, if you ask me. Definitely more so than Elvis, but that might be a hot take.
yeah.
Um, The only other thing worth mentioning would be Babylon, which is another criminally underrated movie from last year.
Oh,
Again,
good. I was waiting for
I
you to say
had you seen it?
that.
I
I
wasn't
did see,
sure.
I did see it. Yeah.
Dude, what
And
I don't get it. What did people not like about it? Too long, sure, but like,
it's really
oh my
long,
God, man, it
but
was so awesome.
I think that some people just didn't like. I dug his style, like Damon Chazelle's style. Like
Yeah.
I, especially like I said, the first hour of it is like
Oh,
it's it's
oh my
so. I mean,
God.
like God, you want to be there.
Blew me away.
It's
Yeah,
like
you do.
it's so crazy, and but I think some critics have a problem with how Hollywood is perceived during certain time periods.
This
I
was
think that
brought
had
up.
I think
Yeah,
that had a lot to do with it. Um, but yeah, I don't get it. There's a thing on Twitter like where people talk about how they're a part of the Babylon Hive because like it didn't really get a lot of nominations, and the
a
ones that did,
shame. It
yeah, and the
deserved
ones that did get
everything.
it got shut out of the ones that it did get, and there are people that like myself too. I would consider myself part of that hive that
Me too.
rode pretty hard for it. That were like, oh, like, all right, you didn't like it, but like I dug everything about it. Like
Everything about it.
for me, that's
Exactly.
Giselle hasn't made a bad movie yet, and like there are other people who are going to say that like, oh, well, this is one of them. But I mean, but he also said that he's fine with he knew it'd be divisive, like he knew it'd be
True.
kind of polarizing. Um, but I don't know, man. Like I thought he was like firing on like all cylinders, and I agree that like the second hour and third hour aren't as strong as like the first, but like
For
I mean,
sure.
when you come out the gate like that, it's hard to like top. I mean, maintain that energy. But
Right.
I just thought overall, and then I thought Margot Robbie was kind of robbed. I mean,
Oh,
I don't know who I would replace her with, but like I
that's
think that was
right.
like, I think that's some of the best work that she's done, if not the best work she's done. Um,
Transformative performance for her. Like if she does that again, I'm sure people won't overlook her.
yeah,
That hard performance to top though. Like she was amazing. All the cast did a
yeah,
fantastic job. Diego Calva, I think, was the other lead. Brad
yep,
Pitt, amazing as always. Like they were all snubbed if you ask me, but it's hard when you're
yep,
only working with five nominations. Again, I don't know who I'd replace, but I feel like they deserve to
yeah,
be there. And
yeah. I
by
agree.
every single possible metric, Babylon was absolutely incredible. Deserved. I would have given it a nomination in every category if I could have. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Chazelle is like I totally get what he's doing. He's like one of my favorite working directors and criminally underrated. But as long as he doesn't, get discouraged by this, which I'm sure he doesn't care about the lack of recognition, he's fine. Like he will continue to be. He'll be in that conversation for years to come as like one of the greats. Like he's a
Yeah.
fantastic filmmaker. But yeah, I can't really praise Babylon enough, to be honest. If you haven't seen it and you like any of his movies, or if you like, it was honestly, if I honestly looked at it like an earlier version of like the Wolf of Wall Street. My buddy had made this comparison.
Yeah,
It feels very much like that, and even the
yeah,
same length. But if you like anything like that, check Babylon out. It was awesome.
yeah, and
But yeah, that's
become part of the Babylon Hive. There's
yeah. Join the
the
Babylon
hive,
Hive. I need some love.
the hive is growing. It's growing. It's growing.
Yeah,
I mean, they took a shot at Babylon during the monologue during the Oscars about like it losing money because it did flop.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, it
But
did, man. Which
it,
was so discouraging.
but it's kind of hard. I mean, releasing a movie like that during Christmas time. I mean, it might be hard.
Yeah, and it was
Not really family
against it was
friendly.
competing with Avatar for at least a few weeks.
Yeah.
So not a
I think it's
great
one of those
release
things that will
strategy,
find
but
its audience. Like it's going to be like a cult favorite. I think
I bet
down the
you're
line,
right.
completely down the
Yeah,
line.
I think you're right.
Alrighty,
But
well,
yeah, so that's all I wanted to get out. So let's transition. We had a big night last night.
Academy
Speaking of the
Awards.
Oscars.
So
Yeah,
we did some predictions for you. We did some that we did on the show. We didn't do all of them on the
right.
show to save time, but I did fill in the other ones before the show aired.
Same here.
I
How'd you do?
surprised I surprisingly got 17 right, but I'm not. But there's two of
Oh,
them.
nice.
But you know what? I'm gonna I'm gonna say 15 because like I totally guessed on live action short and documentary short and got it right. I didn't know. I didn't really like.
Which
There
one
was
did I get
no
right? So did I.
there was no like rhyme or reason to it other
Nope,
than
completely
like
random.
random.
I also
Um,
guessed that, yeah, short film animated I got right, but I had no dog
yeah,
in that fight. Just
at all.
circled something,
But
but yeah,
overall,
which
pretty
ones
good
did
night.
you?
Did I
Yeah,
miss
were you
or did I get
surprised by
right?
anything major?
Um, well, let me tell you what I missed. I
Yeah, let's hear
missed
that.
because I went with like instead of going with my heart because I remember I said like Brendan Fraser should win, but then I was like kind of hopped on the I hopped on the
That's right.
hop on the Austin Butler train, and he
I
lost.
was thinking of you.
And Brendan
Yeah,
Fraser won, and I
that's
was.
right.
We can talk about these in more detail, but I'll go. And then the other one I
Yep,
missed, supporting actress, because I was like riding hard for Angela Bassett, and
right. I
should have
missed that
rode
one
hard
too.
for the Scream Queen, Jamie Lee Curtis, because she ended up winning.
Oof. We got to
Uh,
chat about that one later too. Holy moly!
I should have went with my heart for original screenplay, but I thought they were gonna want to give Martin McDonough something, and
Right?
another movie that got shut out completely, like didn't win anything
Oh,
last night.
that
Um,
hurts to say.
that went to Everything Everywhere All at Once, but I was happy they won because I thought that was
Mm,
a really cool, like one of their many cool wins last
I
night.
think the most deserving in that category. So not
And
mad
then
about it.
I also miss speaking of Babylon, I missed the original score because I thought for sure that would win original score.
Yep,
But nope. The music from
with you.
All Quiet on the Western Front run, and yeah.
Not mad about that one either.
But once they played the piece of the music, I was like, oh
Oh,
yeah, okay,
I was like, man, that
that's good.
score is so awesome.
I'm cool with that. And then what else did I miss? I'm trying to see the other one. Oh, documentary feature. This is what happens when you just choose stuff based on the name,
Yeah,
because I think I chose All the Beauty and the Bloodshed, and that was just based on pure name. Didn't get
right.
that right. Another thing I picked based on a name was the animated short My Year with Dicks, which did not win. I only picked it because of the funny name, and like
I had
got
not
that
heard
wrong.
about that until the ceremony. Even on my paper, I didn't even like read over the name of it. Like, oh my god, that threw me for a loop.
Got that completely wrong. Um, but I guess what everything everywhere all at once made history last night, and I didn't really notice how much history it actually made until you
Well,
really
for
like
For
Mich-
Michelle, yo,
yeah, first Asian actress to win like lead actress. And I
yep.
know we did the show with like some of the people from the League of Cinephiles yesterday, and
Hmm.
I kind of brought that up about like how Halle Berry was going to be one of the people presenting it. And the only reason Halle Berry presented the lead actress award because Will Smith won last year, and usually it's the person who wins the previous year that gives out best actress, and then
Right.
best actor is given out by the lady that wins best actress the previous year. But we all
Yes.
know that Will Smith is banned for 10 years. He couldn't be there.
Yeah. Ah,
So Halle Berry was there, but it ended up being this like really cool moment because like a woman of color hasn't won the lead actress award since Halle Berry in 2002,
and she's only the
and
first to ever do it. So
she was the first one ever to do it,
yeah.
and like so like there was this genuine like hug and kind of like congratulations between the two of them that I thought was just really great and seemed like very sincere and like really amazing. I just thought that was a really cool thing to
I think
showcase.
the appointment of Halle Berry to that award was foreshadowing by the Academy. They're like, oh, you're passing the torch on to
Of
the
course,
next one.
yeah,
Like, which I did not clue in, I'll admit, while watching the ceremony. It was only pointed out to me afterwards, but I'm like, it's kind of slick,
yeah,
honestly. Good for them.
yeah. It was cool. I mean, it was, but also, I mean, uh,
If
I
that's
just
the
posted,
case.
I just posted something today where like Paul Schrader, the guy who wrote Taxi Driver,
Oh yeah, I love me some
he
Paul
made
Schrader.
he made some comments today about how the Oscars are too woke and it's become like the international Oscars and like it should be our ceremony as in like U.S. American ceremony, and
Okay.
that I mean those comments are kind of tone deaf because you have people like her that come here. There was this whole concept about the American dream last night. It was in her
Yue
speech.
Kwan's.
It was
Yeah.
in his speech too. Like, that's why to hear a statement like that, it's kind of tone deaf because it isn't something that just ours. Because a lot of people come here wanting to achieve these things, and you know, and they get to if they're lucky, and those two being really good examples of that, of what you can
Totally.
do when you work hard and that stuff pays off, and even when it seems like there's a lull in like how much you work and for him speaking of him where there's like there was no opportunities for a very long time, and I
Hmm.
heard that he started doing like stunt work occasionally because he still wanted to be in the same room as like some of like these actors still wanted to work in the industry, and you know his story is just amazing, and I think that's what I'm going to miss the most about this award season, just watching him like
Yeah,
his
totally.
exuberance, and then like just fully just embracing taking selfies with all these people who he probably loves and admires, and like
It's like being a kid
having
again. It was
yeah,
so
and
nice to
like
see.
so it was really really cool, just really wholesome, I thought. I also wanted to just point out all the history that the movie made. It was
Yes,
nominated
yeah.
for
Let's. What else did they do?
11 Oscars. It won 7 of the 11, It's the first sci-fi movie to win Best Picture. I didn't even think about that. It being like a sci-fi film.
Whoa.
Um, it's also first film to win
Wow.
picture and 3 acting awards. Best Picture and 3 acting awards. Third film ever to win 3 acting awards. And A24, who distributed the movie, is the first ever production company to win all 6 top awards at the Oscars. So like that,
That
I
is
mean,
awesome.
and there is some hate. Not, well, I guess there are people that don't like it. That didn't like. They thought it was like too weird and offbeat.
Didn't like the movie?
Yeah, and
Yeah, for sure.
for all the things people say about it being too weird and offbeat, it is weird and it is offbeat, but there is a real, genuine human story in it.
Totally.
Especially like when you get down to the nitty gritty stuff with like her and her daughter and like all that. There's like this real kind of like we talked about that stuff in like After Sun too, where you're talking about the father daughter relationship and like you can convey those stories in like so many different ways. And like this movie does it in a weird kind of fun multiverse kind of thing, and like
Totally.
at least it makes it like wholly original, and like it gives it like it's not like anything you've really seen before, and like and the fact that like
Absolutely.
the Oscars acknowledged it um in such a big way. Even after, I mean, I know I only sent you some of the anonymous ballot stuff like
Right.
over the week, but there were some people that said that it took them like some of the anonymous ballots, like, oh, it took me 4 times to watch it because they were just so like confused or like what was going on. Some people that
Interesting.
didn't even watch it. Um, but I'm
Hmm.
glad, despite all that, it overcame that, and probably going to be one of the most unique Best Picture winners we've probably seen.
It will come up in future conversations, I think, many times. And also, yeah, back to your point, the fact that it was that it was nominated so many for so many Oscars, but the fact that it won as many as it did is like got to be inspiring for future filmmakers for
Yeah.
sure.
So let's talk about this was pretty much at the top of the show. They did animated feature first. And I
Mhm.
felt good, right? I felt good out of the gate getting like the first one right
Right,
for
right, right.
Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. But then we got to supporting actress, and I mean, I guess we saw it maybe coming with the SAG win, but like
I'll be honest, I did not see it even with the SAG win.
that
I
went,
did not. I was all for Carrie Condon, like same
yeah,
pick that I had picked when we filmed our last episode. I knew you were strong on Angela Bassett. I could have seen it going either of those ways. I did
yeah,
not expect to get who we got, but I'm
yeah.
happy for her.
I'm happy for it too. I mean, I felt bad because of course they have the camera on people when like they announce the winners, and
Yeah,
there's already been this viral moment already with Angela Bassett. Really, she looks disappointed,
and
and
that's
and
fair.
and I think what happens during award season, and unless you like kind of are that person that, even if you're as like talented and regal as she is, I think people telling you that like, oh, you're probably the front runner, this is yours, like like, what if that eventually like kind of gets to you, and you're like, all right, maybe this could happen, like this might be my night. So like
Right.
for her to have like a human like emotion of like deflation, I mean like that's not. I don't think she's being rude to Jamie Lee Curtis. I know people are spinning it that way. I just
I never
she's
got
also,
that vibe.
I think she's just human, and like
Yeah,
and you can express disappointment. Maybe, I mean, of course, the other nominees look like they kind of like handled it better. One of the nominees, of course, is her co-star, is Stephanie Shu, so she was going to be happy for her either
definitely.
way. But I still maintain this, man. It's a career Oscar. I mean,
It is a career Oscar.
I
You're
love Jamie Lee
preaching to the
Curtis.
choir here, man.
Yeah, I love Jamie Lee Curtis. I actually think she is good in the movie.
Yep,
She has some fun moments in it, but I agree with like a lot of other people. Like, if you're gonna give the supporting actress award to anyone in that movie, it should have gone to Stephanie Shu over Jamie Lee Curtis, who
right.
does a lot more like heavy lifting than Jamie Lee Curtis does in the movie.
Movie demands a lot more out of Stephanie Shu than it does Jamie Lee Curtis.
And
That is
and there's
absolutely
an
true.
argument to be made that Carrie Condon and Hung Chau are also better in their respective movies than Jamie Lee Curtis was. Um, but it's a weird thing because I'm looking at the reception to it, and Jamie Lee Curtis knows her audience, and the fact that she shouted out everyone that has supported her genre work over the years in her speech, which was like a direct like shout out to every horror fan that's like been behind her since like Halloween, through The Fog, through Prom Night, through Terror
Right.
Train, through more Halloween movies. The fact that she shouted
Yeah.
them out, like, because she's always said this, and people feel differently about like because it seems like she kind of after a while abandoned horror movies to do more mainstream movies. But she's always acknowledged that like she wouldn't have a career without Halloween. So she's always thanked that genre for giving her a career. And
Love that.
and even though there is like financial gain from like doing like, Halloween 2018 and then those two other movies after that, you don't go
Mhm.
back to that well unless you know, have some kind of love for it or respect for it. She didn't have to do any of those
Definitely.
movies again.
Right.
She could have tapped out after H2O and Resurrection, but like I don't want to do any more Halloween movies.
Right.
And David Gordon Green pitched her on this really good idea to kind of come back and like disregard all the sequels and kind of like focus on that first movie. And she didn't have to come back if she didn't want to. So I still think at the end of the day she has like a lot of respect for genre fans, even if people think like,
Yep.
she kind of abandons it every now and then. She didn't have to even think that genre like that in her speech. And the fact that she did, I thought was a really good shout out to every horror fan
It
that's kind of
is.
supported her over the years.
And you can't expect an actor to stick to one genre for their whole career. If they take a hiatus from a certain genre, that is completely normal. So I don't, whatever hate, or maybe not even hate, but any discourse around her abandoning the horror genre, I think is like misplaced.
Yeah.
You rarely see an actor not step out of a certain genre along their career. But I do think that her win opens up a conversation about like the merit of how you place your vote in the Oscars. Because like, although I'm happy for Jamie Lee, there is an Oscar to recognize an
A
actor's
lifetime,
career over the
lifetime
years, like
achievement.
honorary. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what voting for that is for. You know what I mean? Or I'm sure there's other circumstances, but I kind of like just wish that they had given it to like the best performance of the year, which I just don't think was her. And I'm not alone in
Yeah.
that, I know. But
No,
definitely an interesting conversation, maybe.
you're really not. And like, I've never been a fan of the career Oscar. Like, when I look at like Leonardo DiCaprio for The Revenant, right? That to me,
Mhm.
even though when he won, I mean, he's still fairly young, but like, even though like, I felt like that was more of a career thing rather than this is the best like performance you've given, or even the best performance that year. Uh, it felt more like
Right.
you've been nominated so many times and you haven't won. I feel like there are other people that are coming up on that too. Who have been nominated multiple times who haven't won. There are like people like Amy Adams who's been nominated like so many times and never won. I think that like,
Right.
not saying that like if there's a performance that she gives, if it is the best of that year, she gets recognition for it. That's great.
Yeah.
But I also know that she could fall in that category of like, she's been here so much, let's just give it to her. And like I've never been a fan of like that.
I
I
don't want that to
agree.
be
I agree.
popular.
There's the honorary Oscar. I mean, there's like this is like a look back at your work, your contribution to the industry. Like that's what that's for. And
It's a
like,
competition.
and I can't even imagine being an Academy voter, being like looking at all those names and being like, well, when's the next time Jamie Lee Curtis is going to be nominated for one? Like, she's been in the industry for like 45 years. We should
Right.
just give it to her. I couldn't vote that way. Like, no
No,
matter
right? Neither
no
could
matter
I.
no matter how much I like her, like I wouldn't be able to like vote that way at all. I think she has enough respect and goodwill in the industry that it's like, they'll still be like, yo, you have an Oscar, that's great. But if you go on Twitter and stuff right now, there are a lot of people kind of calling it out. I mean, there are a lot of
Oh
people
yeah.
that are throwing their weight behind Angela Bassett, and I also don't want to put it up just on her. There are people that threw their weight behind Carrie Condon in a big way,
Yeah,
and
me
then
included.
also if you're gonna nominate the supporting actress from her movie, they were like Stephanie Shu should have been like a shoe in for that.
Yeah.
So it's like it's I agree. There's a bigger discussion about like the career Academy Award, and
One to be
rather
had in
than
the future for sure.
yeah. But yeah, that was like the first, I guess, surprise. I was like, you sent me a
Mhm.
message like right after it happened too, and I was like,
Yeah, I did.
like,
Yeah. I was like, I
well,
can't believe they actually did it. Yeah.
and then that made me very concerned about the rest of my ballot. I was like, well, shit, like, who knows where this is going?
Which, hey, it
Uh,
sounded like it ended up going pretty much the way you expected after that,
yeah, I mean, it did for the most part. Like,
for the most
what
part.
what other category do you want to like kind of tackle as far as like, was there like a surprise or like you kind of like thought was went the way you thought it was gonna go, or because I know we had some like
Well, uh,
shoulds and who will wins kind of predictions and like kind of see how you felt like
yeah.
with certain yeah.
There were not a whole lot of standouts. Like I did pretty well with my predictions. I did one less than you. You said you went 17 for 23. I went 16 for 23, but there was
Nice.
four categories in there, like the short films and the documentary ones where I had no dog in the fight. So
Yeah.
taking away those four, the 19 that I actually took the time and like made an educated guess on, I went 16 for 19, which I was like
Yeah.
pretty happy with myself that they did. There weren't very many surprises. But the big one, I guess, like I'm very happy they gave actor in a lead role to Brendan Fraser. Was just like such an awesome, like cathartic moment. Like
I
I
was
couldn't
happy for him
contain my
too.
excitement for him. That
Yeah.
was great. His speech was great. What else was? I mean, actually, wanted to talk a little bit about the love that All Quiet on the Western Front got. That was nice to.
So
It
like
won four.
early in the night. So the fun thing about watching this stuff, guys, is if you do go on Twitter, because sometimes Twitter can be fun during the ceremony because everyone's just like tweeting out like live
Right,
reactions and stuff, right? And there was like a little moment earlier in the night where that movie was winning a lot of like they were all technical awards. It didn't like international feature, but it was winning
right.
like a lot. And I was like, is this going to be like a sneaky like is it gonna sneak in and like? I mean, I knew
I
me
was thinking it might
in
have.
my heart, I knew it was gonna win Best Picture, but I was like, is it possible? Is it gonna pull like a Parasite and like win Best Picture and Best International Feature? Because it got some pretty significant. I mean, there was one that we knew it was gonna get. Thank God, like cinematography. I mean, it is the best looking of the ones that were nominated for
Yep,
cinematography. So thank God for that. Even though there should be that
love that. That's a
subcategory that
massive
has
one too.
should have a subcategory with Top Gun Maverick and the Northman and the Batman if we're gonna like
Yeah,
um and and then of course they won international feature. God, what were some other ones? Oh, and then score. Even though
yeah, big one.
I loved Babylon score, I think that was like a surprise too for the night a little bit.
Like I think a
Uh
strong front runner or not front runner. What's the word I'm looking for? Not what
runner
runner
up.
up,
Yeah,
runner
yeah.
strong
No.
runner up. So like I wasn't that surprised when it beat Babylon because it was the only other one I think stood a chance. But I did expect them to do Babylon. Like Justin Hurwitz's
Yeah,
streak is now over.
yeah.
But like hearing that score again, like you said, like it rattled my bones a little bit. And I actually have such an inkling to rewatch that movie again since it did as well as it did last night.
Yeah.
Um,
And then let's see. We also knew obviously visual effects was going to Avatar. You know what? I would have like fell out my seat if they gave it to anything else. I would have thought it was funny.
oh, I
And
would
I
have,
and I would
yeah,
have not I wouldn't have been mad. I would have been like, "Oh, well, that's kind of I see what you did there. You guys are trying to be funny over at the
my
Academy."
jaw would have dropped.
Because there were a lot.
Yeah,
I love that like Jimmy Kimmel calling out James Cameron not being there last night and Tom Cruise because
yeah,
he
that's
was like
right.
he was like two of the biggest proponents of like getting back to the theater are not actually at the theater tonight. I mean I don't know why Tom Cruise wasn't there. Maybe he's doing stuff with Mission Impossible. I don't know for sure if he's shooting something. James Cameron, I don't know why he wasn't there either. The Avatar team seemed like it was represented by like Sigourney Weaver and all the technical people that worked on the visual
Right.
effects because that was theirs to lose and they got it of course. But it was interesting that those two big figures like of like going back to the movies were not there.
You know what?
Um,
I bet you they would have been there if they thought their movie had any chance at winning the big one. But I think they both knew. I'm
I
sure
think they
that would have
both
made a
knew.
difference. But be
Well, you
interesting to
know,
know where they were.
yeah, I'd be interested to know
Tom
too.
probably was filming.
And I'm gonna say at least we can say Academy Award winner Top Gun Maverick because it won one. It did win for best
That's right.
sound.
Sound.
uh,
Yeah. Good for it. I'm happy. It can put that on the DVD cover.
yeah, when you like read the fine print, like what did it win? Oh, like best sound,
Right.
cool.
Oh,
uh,
sound. Still.
uh, and then I'm glad I went with everything everywhere all at once for editing. I thought like I
Me too.
there were some people that were rooting for Elvis. I know that was a big one on Twitter. Um, I was like, how do you watch everything everywhere all at once and not look at how marvelously it's like cut together? So I was like,
Yeah.
that had
Also,
to be
one
like a big one.
person,
Oh
only
yeah, yeah.
one dude went up there to get the award. So did he do that? He must have had a
I
team. I think he shouted out his team, but I was
and then he
surprised
said it
at
was
that.
his second movie. I think like when he won his award,
What?
and I was like,
Oh my
good.
God.
I was like, good for you, dude. Um,
They also filmed it in like 36 days or something like that.
They did
Like
it.
the
So
editing
I heard
process must have
I
taken
heard
9 months.
they did it right before everything shut down. Like Jamie Lee Curtis said, I think she started shooting in like
Oh,
January 2020. So they got it all, and it was in like done locally, like in the Los Angeles area. It's like Jamie Lee Curtis makes a lot of jokes about
okay.
that because like at her age now, she's like, I want to fly out to do a lot of work. So she's like, I live in LA. It's cool that it shoots in LA. But yeah, it like did this
Yeah,
little strange.
definitely.
They all talk about they did this strange little movie like right before everything shut down. And I also liked in the editor's speech where he said, "I hope," he was talking about the actors and stuff, and he was like, "I hope I did all of you guys proud," because like a movie like
Yeah.
kind of lives and breathes after they shoot it, and now it's up to an editor to kind of put all those pieces together. So I thought it was cool that he was like, "I hope that like what I did put together, like, I mean, certainly made them look good. I mean, they're all like a lot of them were Oscar
Yeah,
winners after yesterday,
it paid
so
off.
paid off big
Yep.
time
I
for
think
them."
the editor of Elvis could have taken a couple notes from him because I that was a movie I got lost in. There was too much going on, edited too wildly. But
It is,
I
and
also
like,
had predicted everything. So
yeah, we talked about that too because I mean, I've brought up Baz Luhrmann. Like, if you're into like Moulin Rouge and even The Great Gatsby, I think that works for that. Like that kind of
right.
frenetic, kind of like quick cut, like razzle dazzle kind of stuff. It works for those movies. I just didn't think it
Yep.
worked for a biopic like this. But there are people that feel differently than us that thought it kind of gave the film like a lot of energy. My train of thought was that movie's
Oh, it gave
long.
it energy, all right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh man,
that movie
too
is
long.
long, but for a movie that moves so fast and is cut so quick, it felt. It's why did it still feel long? Like, it felt
That's a great point.
like it
Great
felt like
point.
extremely long. But yeah, I was happy that Everything Everywhere All at Once took that award. Um, and then the screenplay like awards.
Mm,
Even though I was wrong, I mean, I'm happy that the Daniels won because I kind of felt like they could win, but I was like, I was thinking too much like how the Academy might be thinking, like, oh, they want to give Martin McDonough. I didn't think they were gonna kind of shut out Banshees entirely.
right.
And it got shut out of everything. I mean, we had like four major shutouts, I think, and there was that movie, The Fablemans,
Elvis,
and Tar.
Tar.
That didn't win
Yeah.
it. That didn't win anything. I think Triangle of Sadness too, right? That didn't win anything either.
No, I don't
Uh,
think it did.
and
Except for the Palme d'Or at Cannes, which is
yeah,
great
yeah,
because that's all that movie
right,
needs.
yeah, yeah, right.
Who cares?
But like I said, I'm happy the Daniels won, and actually, each time that they went up there and accepted an award, all their speeches were really good. Um,
Yeah, they really were.
and
They
you could
felt
just tell that,
prepared. They felt
and you could
prepared.
tell they're like total like
Yeah.
film nerds. Like you could tell they just love filmmaking, and like
Yep.
that kind of shined every time they went up on stage to like to accept their award. And we talked about women talking and Sarah Pauly. That was going to be the one that like she could win, and she did. And I
I
thought that
went
was
with her on
great.
that one too. Yeah,
And
and very deserving. Did you get a chance to see that one? We know we chatted it briefly.
yeah, when you said it, I watched it that morning before I
Oh
went to work.
yes,
Yeah, yeah, it was really good.
that's right. That's right. That's right.
Very well written. So
Deserving. Yeah, for sure.
so I'm glad that it got acknowledged in some way. And I love what she said in her speech about like I'm glad the Academy like paid attention to a movie that had women and talking so close together. The title, yeah,
That's
I
right.
mean, there's a reason those are jokes like that out there, guys. So,
That's right.
oh, and I heard that she's one of her next projects. She wants to do a movie that it centers around like Academy voting. I guess like maybe being inspired by like
No
what
way.
what kind of went on with the whole Andrea Riseborough stuff. Like that could be a really fun,
Okay,
like be a really fun movie. I don't know if it would like piss
I'm
off
on
people in the
board for something
industry,
like that.
but that'd be really cool to kind of see
I love. Yeah,
something like inside like Hollywood kind of like
I
movies
love
like that.
inside the industry movies, dude. That's why
Yeah,
Babylon. Like I would have loved that movie regardless of what it was talking about, but just
yeah,
it hit extra home. Movies like that are awesome.
yeah.
It's nice to get a sneak
Uh,
peek behind the curtain.
and also too, like we have like two people from Encino Man that I mean, going back to Brendan Fraser and Ke Kwan, they were both in Encino Man together. You never would have
Yes,
thought
been
back in
seeing
the
that.
day those two guys would be Oscar winners, but like good for them. And there was like actually one of the things I did see after the Oscars ended. I think Brendan Fraser is getting interviewed, and Ke Kwan walks backstage while he's getting interviewed, and they have this genuine moment of like we did it, like kind of together, like they like hug each other,
Uh
and like it was just so cool to kind of see like because they both like you know had this kind of career thing where
Redemption story. Yeah.
yeah, like Brendan Fraser hadn't worked in a while, like kind of thought the industry was through with him, and the same thing with Kehu Kwan. So I think that to have them both kind of be in that position together, it's just really cool to see.
And they were both first time nominees too, which was there was a lot of those last night, like
Yeah,
16 or 15 or something like that.
yeah, and then like my friend texted me when Harrison Ford came out to announce Max Fisher. He was like, "Oh, Everything Everywhere All at Once is gonna win because that guy was in Temple of Doom with Harrison Ford. It's gonna be really adorable." When he says that
Yeah.
one Best Picture, and what did he do when he ran on stage? He gave Harrison Ford like the biggest hug.
biggest hug.
Because they actually had reunited before at like another event and like took a picture together and like
Yes.
it's a really cool, fun thing to kind of see. I don't know. I think he probably had the most fun during all of award season.
Certainly, I think you're right. Yeah, I've got
Um,
not much space left on his mantle now with all the awards that he's won over the last few months.
I know, right? And then, and
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I talked about original song. We didn't really talk about it on the show. I don't know what the criteria is for like winning. um, dude, that Not To song. Watching it live, it was fun, and I get it. It
Yeah.
was like really fun, but I don't know how they choose
Yeah.
it. Because then I was watching like when it got to Rihanna's when she did "Lift Me Up," I thought it was like a pretty
Right.
good, like emotional, like well done performance, and like when you watch it within the movie, it like fits so well in the last like 5 minutes or so. It's like a really emotional scene that it's used for. So I was always
Okay.
wondering like what the criteria is for picking best original song. But then the lady that introduced Not To said that the song plays during a pivotal moment in that movie too. So it could be like
Yep.
just
Once
as
we
important.
see, I'm sure
I'll
it'll,
be like,
add
oh
some
okay,
context. I'm excited to see. I haven't made the time to watch it yet, but I'm going to carve
yeah,
out some time
for
eventually to
sure.
watch that.
What else? Oh, also costume design. Ruthie Carter won for Black Panther: Wakanda Forever.
Right.
The first woman of color to win that Oscar twice. So she worked on the
Oh,
first movie as well. So good. Also, really significant win for her. I was kind of worried because it actually lost the costume, like one of the big costume awards, to Everything Everywhere All at Once, like a week or two prior, and I was like,
that's what I picked. Yep.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, so that was cool to actually see as well.
So
We talked
Marvel got
about
on the board with that one.
so Marvel is always going to go on the board with technical stuff. It seems like I mean, that's
Yeah.
one of the things that they've said about Angela Bassett's loss is that is this more of like a dig against like they're not the Academy doesn't want to give an actor no matter how strong they are an Oscar for appearing in a Marvel movie. And we can speculate all day long if that's the case, but it is an interesting
Right.
argument to be made if they're really that highbrow about it. Like of like, oh, like we're not gonna the nomination was enough. Like, we'll
Right.
never really know.
I
We'll never
think
really know for sure.
no, we'll never know. But I think if it wasn't Jamie that had won that one, where it was just so clearly a career recognition
Yeah.
award, that argument would, I think, have a little bit more sway.
Right.
Be interested in another life to have known, but no, we'll
Yeah.
see. There'll always be. I'm sure there will be maybe a couple nominations for Marvel next year. We can see how that goes, and
We'll see how it
that
goes. Yeah,
discussion will still be alive, I'm sure.
for sure. And I know I broke down
Yeah.
all the history that Everything Everywhere All at Once made, but just to make it a more like a clearer picture of like the kind of big sweep that it had. Best picture,
Mm,
best director, uh best original screenplay, best supporting actress, best supporting actor, and best leading actress. That is an incredible feat to like sweep awards in all those categories. Had there been a lead actor, there would have been like some competition maybe for
it,
like Brendan Fraser and like the
yep.
rest of those dudes. That was the only that's what makes it not like a clean sweep in the major categories because it wasn't nominated there.
Right.
Um,
The fact that
but
it picked up
it's
both
crazy.
supporting ones was pretty cool, though. So it's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
kind of like, yeah,
that was
almost
awesome.
like the Big Five, but like the junior version of that with the supporting, which is pretty cool.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Um,
happy to see
uh,
it.
so how do you feel coming out of your first award season on the podcast?
Oh, great. I mean, bewildered, exhausted. I honestly, like, as much fun as I have with the awards, like this is my first time ever really like following other ceremonies beyond the
The Oscars.
Globes and the Oscars. But I'm excited to have done it. But all that being said, like I am glad to be moving on to different topics now. It's
Talk
just
about
such
something else.
you know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah,
such an encompassing few months. It feels like that's a lot of what we're talking about. But hey, it's like the Christmas season. Like I live for it when we're in it. When
yeah,
it's time is done, I'm excited to move on to other things until we get
yeah,
to this point next year. So, I mean, all in all, I feel like pretty good with how everything turned out. I especially like the Academy Awards was great to watch. All went off
yeah.
without a hitch, and yeah, I'm glad for what the future holds for 2023's movies. We're already almost a quarter of the way through the year,
It's
if you can believe
crazy.
that.
It's crazy. And
Oh my
like,
god.
and then what I try not to do, I actually respect a lot of the cinephile pages on Instagram and Twitter that do this. I can't do it because like award season is so long. There are already people that
Right.
post like what they think will be like the front runners for like the next award season. Like I've
Yeah,
seen
I
that
saw
already
Merck's post.
today.
I was like,
Yeah,
man,
I'm like I can't
yeah.
even. I don't even want to think about it. It's like I want like a rest.
I'm gonna take them as they come for the next
I
few
want
months.
to
You know what I
enjoy
mean?
the summer movie season and like kind of shut my brain off a little bit and watch dumb action movies. And of course, we're gonna get like a few.
Exactly.
You get like stuff like Oppenheimer. That's probably gonna be like a big player
Oh,
next award season. But yeah, yeah, like you said, it's like so. And you got in it like in the thick of it. Like when you got on here, like it was like
yeah.
in
Yeah.
the middle of it, and like, but it is a lot of fun, and it's kind of cool to kind of go along and see like, oh, how well did I do? Like, how well did my predictions go? Um,
It,
Sometimes you're genuinely surprised, and then sometimes you're genuinely like, excited for people that you've been rooting for, and even if you weren't rooting for those people,
definitely.
like you're just like, well, it's still cool to see you win, I guess. So
And to watch movie history being made before your eyes is like really cool too.
right. And I
Love that
also
part.
shouting out those people who got nominated that didn't win. Like just like thinking of like people like Paul Mescal or Ana de Armas, like people like the
Yep.
people like that get those nominations where it's like even Steph I'll even say Stephanie Shu and like Hung Chao too. Like
Yeah.
yeah, like I think what that means down the road for the roles that you might be able to get. Um I hope because sometimes you hear actors when they talk about like, oh, I was nominated and then like I didn't hear the phone ring for like this amount of months. I hope that's not the case for like some of these people, because I think like with a lot of those guys and girls, like it was just like it gets their work noticed and it's like, okay, pay attention to them, see what they're gonna do next, like put them in a project that even expands on that talent even more. So I'm looking forward to see
Yeah.
what comes from a lot of them uh down the line.
Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything for Hong Chow or for Stephanie Shu. I'm sure they will get some good roles handed their way, but we know Paul Mescal is casting
Gladiator.
Gladiator 2, which is
Yeah.
filming, which is great. And Anna, I don't think her career is going anywhere. That was probably the first of many nominations
Yeah.
if her career is going anyway, the way it is.
Yep.
So I agree. I'm excited to see where the careers of all these nominees go, because again, there's a lot of first time nominees carving a
Yeah.
name for themselves. It's great to see.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's why you
Yeah,
can feel like a genuine excitement in the room because there were so many people that were being acknowledged for the first time. And like I think that had a
definitely.
lot to do with it too. Um Before I wrap that, what do you think of Jimmy Kimmel just as a host overall? Like I thought he did a really good job kind of carrying it along for the most part. It's a hard
I think he
gig.
did a great job as well. As I said, yeah, it is a tough gig, but if there's a reliable person to do it, Jimmy Kimmel is that. My experience, like we got into a little bit off camera with watching the Oscars, was a little bit,
Oh, that's
obscure. I didn't get
yeah.
to, I wasn't a typical sat down at the beginning of it and sat in the same place till it was over. I was in between places and had some difficulty. So there's probably many parts of him I didn't see, but from what I did see, he handled himself well. He didn't really stray too far off in any direction. He kind of kept it, like
Yeah.
pretty what it was like kind of reined in, I guess is what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say. So I thought that was great. I would like to see maybe a different host in the future, and like I would be fine with him being a recurring host over years, like
Right.
coming back and filling in some gaps. But yeah, I'd like to see maybe somebody else along his like kind of caliber. But I'm
Right.
always on board with him. It's going to be a good ceremony if he's hosting. What do you think
Right.
of him?
I thought he was good. I mean, I think he's a pretty reliable presence there. I mean, there were some jokes that didn't
Definitely.
entirely work when he was doing the thing where he took the questions. The one he gave to Colin Farrell was funny, but the one before, I forgot her name.
To Malala.
Yeah, and
Malala,
that did,
yeah.
and like usually with bits like that, they're kind of pre-planned, but that didn't seem her reaction didn't seem like it was
No,
pre-planned.
it was
So
awkward.
that was awkward, but the Colin Farrell one was funny. I thought that was pretty funny, but like for the most
Yep.
part, like I thought he did a really good job. It's I mean, and he had to acknowledge the slap, and I like it the way he did it was funny, and it
He
went off
didn't
pretty
kill
well.
it or
He didn't
overkill it,
kill it.
which
Yeah,
that's what I was worried about. You know what I mean? Like that would be
yeah,
slap jokes all night. Yeah, he had a few, but it wasn't like overbearing.
yeah,
Also to even like be in that crowd and to go like off script and to do something kind of like not scripted, like with what he did with the
yeah,
questions, is like that takes some serious balls, man. Like with that kind
yeah.
of caliber of people in the room,
It
everybody
really does
watching, like I would not be lifting my eyes from that teleprompt if I were him. So, good
yep.
for him. Even if his jokes didn't land, he, tried to be himself and be original. So
Because it's not an
props to
easy thing
Jimmy.
to do to like run a show like that. I
God,
mean, like
no.
for all the criticism that a lot of critics that write about these award shows and say like, oh, he didn't do this right or he didn't do that right. Like a lot of these people who are like reviewing it probably they would not be able to do it themselves. So like
Exactly.
it's a tough one. It's a tough one, and like you're in a room with a lot of important people, and you're wondering
Yeah,
like, am
and
I
your
gonna say something?
colleagues.
Your colleagues, these are
Yeah.
people that also have been on your late night show if you're him. So like it's an interesting
Yeah,
place to be in. But I thought he did good
certainly.
overall. Yeah, and we even got like, an appearance from Cocaine Bear, so that was funny. That kind of
Yeah, that was
that I thought that mostly landed a little bit.
yeah, that was
Uh,
funny. I like how they tied into the visual effects award. That
yeah,
was
I thought that was really
cool.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, overall, I thought it was a good kind of return to form for the Oscars,
Yes.
and uh,
Very satisfied overall.
after a couple random years where things didn't go the way they should. Um,
That's right.
but to kind of like we'll kind of rapid fire some of these like other news items because we just want to get some of them in. Um,
And there's been lots.
there's been lots. I will start with because we don't have to spend too much time on it, but I'm glad they
Sure.
are doing this. I think it was last week when they dropped the news that Patty Jenkins' Squadron Star Wars movie is not moving forward anymore, and then Kevin Feige's untitled Star Wars movie, whatever that was going to be, is also not moving forward anymore. Uh, Mike T's movie is maybe still in the works. There's reports that he wants to star in it. I don't know how I feel about that.
Oh
Um,
God.
but I know there is like this hunger to get Star Wars back on the big screen, but if they don't want to rush it, don't rush it. And that's how I kind of feel about
I
that.
agree.
It's thriving on TV right now, and I would just
True that.
let it stay there. And I think we mentioned like when we were commenting on like the G-roll stuff that I posted, like
Yep.
the creatives behind the TV shows are doing a good job. You have Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, all doing really well with the shows. Like they might be too busy with the shows, but like entrust them maybe with doing some of the movie stuff. Like if that's the case, I mean, I don't know. Like I'm kind of happy that they realized that like, hey, we kind of greenlit and like announced all these projects maybe too soon, and
Right.
now we need to kind of cut our losses. The Patty Jenkins one, I think it might be creative differences. I think the Kevin Feige one is like you need to focus on Marvel and
So
not so
yeah,
much.
tell me a little bit about the Kevin Feige, like Kevin Feige Marvel or Star Wars project, as in the sense that he was going to direct or
I
what?
think it was a produce and direct one, and I think so.
Really?
Anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, but if anything, like it would most likely be a producer on it. But I think he
That's
had an idea
yeah.
that he pitched, and then they were writing it. And I think that got announced in like 2019, and there was a writer attached to it that actually worked on the Multiverse of Madness, I guess. But I guess that's not moving forward anymore. And then like uh,
Interesting.
Rogue Squadron got announced at one of those like I think D23 Expo things. Like, it was like a
Like
big
just
deal.
recently, right?
Maybe like a year or two ago. I mean,
Okay.
got announced, and then it was kind of put on the back burner because they were like, oh, she has to work on like Wonder Woman 3, and now she's not. And then they were like, oh, now they're like,
I'd be
now
shaking if I were Patty Jenkins right now. Like those are two huge lucrative
properties that
properties that she's not attached to anymore. Like I'm wondering what's going on with her. Although I'm gonna say I'm not upset in any way about it. Like I'm when it comes to Disney, like their Star Wars owners, I honestly I'm a little bit checked. I'm a lot checked out. So I'm not
yeah,
like in any way like feeling anything towards like this news. But
yeah.
if I was going to like want to see a Star Wars project on screen, like a movie, I wouldn't want it to be Patty Jenkins helmed. That's just my opinion. So I'm not mad about that. I'm
Yeah,
curious what's going on behind closed doors with her though.
yeah, I am too. Because like she was such a hot thing after Wonder Woman,
Yeah.
and then like whatever goodwill she had kind of faded after 1984.
Yeah.
And but I agree. I've heard from like a lot of women though that kind of say that they don't know if like a male director would have gotten as much like flack coming off of like a hit and a critical hit, and then maybe
Hmm.
doing a lesser movie, and like would there be as much negative attention attached to like, oh well, look at her, like her second one, like, oh, look at the sophomore slump, blah 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 blah. I don't I honestly don't know if you would get the same reaction if it was a guy that kind of had a little bit of a
Yeah.
sophomore slump after having such a big hit.
I think
um
it's just one of those ones we'll not know an answer to. It just depends on what we would have got if it had happened. I don't think it's like a blanketed sort of
yeah,
approach. You know what I mean? Like I'm looking at like Ryan Johnson. Like he didn't do this is a different scenario. He didn't do Force Awakens, but he did the second one in the Star Wars prequel series. It got trashed. He was still able and it got trashed harder than 84 did, maybe not by
Yeah.
much, but definitely more so. And he was able to, I think she could take a play out of his book because he rebounded quite successfully and is still doing well and making content. I think
Yeah.
Patty maybe should just try something original.
Yeah, well, so when Ryan Johnson did The Last Jedi, it got good critical reviews because it was doing something different, but like every Star Wars fan was that was too different. And they got really
Yeah.
and he got like the audience score is pretty low for The Last Jedi because so many Star Wars fans hate it. But like apparently they still want to work with him and he still wants to work with the Star Wars people. And I'm surprised after all that going through all that. I mean, he must have a thick skin because like it and I think it's cool that they want to work with him still because I still think he's a great director and writer. I mean,
Yes.
and like I didn't love The Last Jedi, but it had very little to do with like the changes that he was trying to make. I just didn't think it like I think it had like a lot of little narrative issues. I also think it was too long. There was like other issues with it that had nothing to do with like the big swings that he took. I actually appreciated the big swings that he took. Um I but kudos to him for wanting to stick around.
Yeah.
In,
And like
in
kudos
that
to him for,
in that
yeah.
fandom, which is
He
very
channeled a lot of that bad publicity into a really successful Netflix property with not with Knives Out and was able to kind of get some stuff off his chest and pump out what he was feeling in terms of the reaction to his movie into an
yeah.
original screenplay that ended up doing very well. I'm like, I gotta admire him for that. As much as
Yeah,
like
for
I
sure.
was kind of hard on him after that, even with Knives
Yeah.
Out, but still I can't take that away from him. But yeah, so of those three projects, just back to Star Wars for a sec. Of those three projects, I think of those three, if there's anybody between Taika, Patty Jenkins, and Kevin Feige that I'd want to still be attached to that, I think it would be Kevin Feige because I think that he's kind of got he's got that figured out and nailed down pat, like where he can
Yeah.
handle these big IPs and produce a pretty solid movie. I
Yeah.
don't know, and I think I commented on might have been Merck's post about Taika's project. I don't know that I like him on Star Wars. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
I don't want him to star in it. I think that was where I like kind of got thrown off. I
Right.
mean, uh,
Yeah,
I
he
think he
didn't.
could be I think he could be a good so I love what he did with like Thor Ragnarok and I like Jojo
Right.
Rabbit too, but like they feel so uniquely him
That's what
that
I'm
it doesn't
saying.
really, but they don't really feel like it would be good for Star Wars.
He did Thor
Uh
4.
he
He
also
didn't
did
star in
yeah
that either.
yeah that
Oh,
the one that Ragnarok's way too hard. Yeah,
yeah.
uh,
Oh,
not good. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that either.
maybe
I
it's
guess of the three, I guess I would want Kevin Feige's.
I think he
He
just needs a chain. Like Taika needs somebody reining him in, being
yeah
not too many jokes. Like this is stick a little bit to your script and don't be so not like again. I think he'd be great with original content in the way that he films and directs and kind of doesn't know where he's going to go from scene to scene and it has fun with it, but not for an established IP like Star Wars. That is a disaster waiting to happen.
yeah I think so too. But I think the focus is like they want Feige on Marvel, and maybe
And that
that could
makes
be
sense.
especially because they're like kind of in a iffy spot
Spot.
right now as
Yeah,
far as like
I understand that.
creatively. So I could see like let's like kind of keep your focus on that. Um, and I rather that too. I mean, I really don't want to see that ship kind of. It's not like it's gonna sink. I think they're gonna be fine in the end. They just hit a few like
Where is
speed
the
bump.
end though? That's what
I
I'm
know.
saying.
I guess so. Like
Are we gonna get to phase 8 and
I
there's
guess
still
there's
like
like
three more in
I
development?
guess
Like
there's no bottom for the Marvel movies, right? They just keep going. And
when they
wait, like at
till
what point do you restart it? I guess you don't, or you just keep it moving.
until they stop making money, which some of them already have, but not nearly to the point where they would scrap it. But I
Be
don't know.
concerned
Like I'd
about it.
be interested to see if we hear news about a phase 7 if things go the way they do. Like it's got to end
Yeah,
sometime.
yeah,
When is the question though?
yeah. It's a question. Exactly, exactly.
We'll probably still be
Uh,
around.
so we'll keep it on the Marvel train a little bit. Like, we actually
Yep.
talked about this when we were on the show that we were invited to yesterday with Daredevil Born Again. Jon Bernthal is returning as the Punisher. That's a pretty big deal for people that love the Netflix Marvel properties.
A lot
I
of happy
love,
fans with that.
yeah, I love Daredevil. That those 3 seasons were amazing, and I was devastated when it was the first of the Marvel shows to get canceled. It didn't help when they got rid of all of them after that, like because everyone knows what the story behind that, like uh, because Netflix was licensing all the Marvel stuff and didn't want to do that anymore. So they canceled
Right.
them. But then Marvel and Disney could even use those properties for like a certain amount of time until like after cancellation. So we had to like wait and see if they were gonna bring back some of these people that we loved in these roles. Like I know Charlie Cox was like, a lot of people loved him as Daredevil, and like, hey, can he be Daredevil in the MCU? And like, of course, that was answered kind of twofold with like having Vincent D'Onofrio come back as Kingpin on like the Hawkeye series, and then having Charlie Cox have a cameo in Spider-Man No Way Home. That means that like he is in the MCU. And then of course they announced the Daredevil Born Again show for Disney Plus, 18 episodes, Charlie Cox returning, Vincent D'Onofrio returning as Kingpin, and then we get Jon Bernthal. I don't know how much they're going to use him.
Right.
I don't know if this is like a guest spot 1 or 2 episode kind of thing, but it's a big deal that it's another example of them using people from these Netflix Marvel shows that were popular with fans and like bringing them in the MCU. So now we're just waiting for Jessica Jones, Kristen Ritter, and
Right.
I don't think Mike Coulter wants to come back as Luke Cage. I think so much time has gone by that he's done other stuff.
Oh yeah.
And no disrespect for anyone that likes Iron Fist, but I don't know if anyone wants Finn Jones back. So I don't think he's ever going to get a phone call to come back. But still a really cool thing. I know there's some concerns about like how far the show's going to go because it's on Disney Plus.
Yeah,
Because
I forgot about that while you're talking about it, and now I'm just like, oh,
yeah, because Daredevil on Netflix was like there was
gritty.
it was very gritty. I still have concerns about it. I'm also concerned about the length of like 18 episodes of that. I mean, I'm sure they'll split it up maybe, but like it seems like a lot.
Yeah, 2 9-part halves, maybe have like some sort of mid-season, like kind of like a Walking Dead style cliffhanger. I think that opens up room to bring back some of those other how did you word it, these other like kind of shows like Jessica Jones,
Jessica Jones, like off the Netflix like Marvel properties, like like all the people that are on there.
That opens up some doors if you really want to bring them in. That's a lot of episodes to give them some love. So
because they were fan favorites, man. Like a lot of those people that were, with the exception of Iron Fist, they were all like really big fan favorites. Like people really liked their shows and really liked them. Yeah, and it's like, if you already have it perfectly cast, like let's just like see what you can work out with like getting them back in. And I'm glad that like Kevin Feige he's one of those people that acknowledged that fan base for those shows. He acknowledged the fan base for Daredevil, Punisher, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, even something like Agents of Shield, which kind of went on for like seasons where it's like, how connected is it to the greater MCU? Like he was still aware that like even when they were like, okay, for that show to thrive, it has to distance itself a bit. He was aware that like even though viewership wasn't always strong, it still had a really dedicated fan base. And he's like, okay, like if we do go back to those wells, like can we utilize some of that talent still and like keep them around? So I think that's smart not to like go full reset, full reboot, especially when you have talented people already in the role. So
exactly. Well, speaking to that point, I know that there are some fans up in arms. We did chat about this a little bit yesterday. There are 2 significant characters recast for the Daredevil.
Oh
Disney show?
So let me I want to get the name right. So Eldon hints I believe Foggy Nelson, and then Deborah Ann Wool, who I mean, I mentioned this yesterday when they were announcing Daredevil Born Again. She was one of those people that she was getting interviewed for like other stuff, random stuff. And like if like every interview she'd just be like, well, I know they're making it, I'm not busy. And they're not
she wasn't approached
back. I'm guessing, like, I guess not. I mean, they're probably just wanting to go. And like, I know we talked about this yesterday. I'm not sure if they're recasting them or they're just not going to have those characters anymore. But even that kind of upset some fans because, like,
rightfully so.
I think most of the characters on that show were well liked. Everyone like thought that people were like perfectly cast in the roles that they had. And I do feel bad for her because I'm making fun of it, but like I don't think it was so much in the desperate way. I think she just really liked the part and she really liked being a part of the show.
Totally.
And same thing with Eldon Henson, who was on the show as well. I know Rosario Dawson has talked about wanting to come back, but she's busy with her Star Wars show now, so she probably can't even do it. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad you mentioned that because there's like kind of like an up in arms situation about like,
yeah, just another sort of thing to look out for in terms of, the trajectory of this show. Like definitely like it's nice on the one hand, just great that Charlie Cox's Daredevil is being brought back, where it was so revered.
Yeah.
B, great move to bring back Jon Bernthal's Frank Castle. But for those two steps forward, you do kind of got some half steps backwards. So it's going to
Yeah.
be interesting to keep our eye on, see how that goes forward.
I agree.
Unless there's anything else you wanted to cover regarding that, there's another
Oh no.
overbloated universe that we could get into in terms of the Creed news.
The segues are perfection this episode.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about what we have to expect going forward with the Creed series?
So because Creed made a massive amount of money opening weekend, $58 million.
And
I think
still
it's
going
already
strong, I imagine.
still going strong. I think it already crossed $100 million domestically.
Oh yeah, in 10 days. That's right.
In 10 days.
Congrats
I guess these discussions were already happening, but they probably started to happen even more after the opening weekend. But they said that Michael B. Jordan has been taking meetings with Amazon, and I know there's some confusion about this because they were like, "Why Amazon?" Amazon like acquired like MGM, which was allowed them to release like they could either release the Creed movies theatrically, or they could have just sent them to the Amazon Prime, like the Prime Video, if they wanted to.
Thank God they didn't do that.
And they knew that they had like a real winner with it theatrically, so thank God they didn't do that. But I guess he's taking meetings with like they want to do like a whole kind of like Creed almost universe with like TV shows, an anime series. Like they've already talked about like a Drago spinoff. I'll read some of them to kind of get you guys up to speed on like what they are. It's a lot.
It is a lot. It's a talk about putting all your, or not all your eggs in one basket, but biting off more than you can chew, like too soon. I kind of feel like I know where that's going, but
yeah. So it says, according to Deadline, some of the potential projects talked about include an anime series connected to the Rocky spinoff IP, and there are ideas for a companion live action TV series. Also being discussed is a potential project centering around Adonis Creed's daughter Amara, who was played by deaf actress Mila Davis Kent in Creed 3. Previously mentioned was a Drago spinoff movie, which was in the works at MGM, written by Robert Lawton. The spinoff would center around Rocky Balboa's foe, Russian boxer Ivan Drago, played by Dolph Lundgren, and his son Victor Drago, who's played by Florian Montagu, who was introduced as Creed's adversary in Creed 2. There was talk of making this a series, but it looks like the move is to make it a movie down the line. As of now, a script has been commissioned, but no other details are available at this time. And then there are also options for more Creed films. Michael B. Jordan says that they have thought of Creed 4, but nothing is official yet. So that is a lot of stuff.
That is a lot of stuff related to one character.
And it's a lot of stuff that would really piss off Sylvester Stallone because he is not involved in this at all.
And I can't help but feel for him right now.
I mean, I think most people will probably know about, like, there's a famous kind of tug of war battle between him and, I want to get the guy's producer name right on the Rocky movies. I think it's Aaron Winkler. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I had Ivan Reitman in my head of Ghostbusters fame, but I knew that wasn't right.
When Sylvester Stallone made Rocky, like Cliff Notes version, he was very young. He wanted to star in it. He wanted to have a lot of creative control. And he kind of did a deal in the late 70s that
with the devil.
That worked out.
Bite him now.
That worked out in the moment to kind of get all the things that you wanted. But like now that this IP has made so much money and now it's like spun off into these Creed spin-off movies and stuff, Sylvester Stallone is not making anything from this anymore at all. And I think there might have been some goodwill there at some point because he did Creed and he did Creed 2. I just think that like over time, maybe discussions of this kind of like good faith, like, hey, this is my baby, can we renegotiate this deal? I think that kind of like eventually fell apart, and I mean he's called out this guy a lot on his Instagram. He has literally posted pictures of depicting him as the devil, which I thought was funny that you already
oh wow, I did not know that. That's funny.
So he there is no love lost between those two. And this is why he said, despite all the good reviews that Creed 3 has gotten, he said he will not be seeing it. Right. I don't know. I mean, it sucks for Michael B. Jordan, who's like, I don't think Michael B. Jordan really cares. I mean, but it's just like he directed this project. It's like he's a part of this now too. He's involved as a producer. He probably worked out a much better deal today.
Oh, I can imagine he's in an
Yeah.
awkward position between the studio and Sylvester Stallone. I'm like, I would
Alone.
hope that he'd have some respect for Sly. That is literally he wouldn't. He's standing on Sylvester's shoulders. Like, he would not be
Right.
there without him. So I
Yeah.
don't know
But
what it's
yeah.
like between them, but I have a bad taste in my mouth about all that. The Creed,
Yeah.
no, no judgment for him for directing the third. Like, that is obviously a property he's been very well, established in for years now. And I have
Right.
no ill will against like the Creed spinoff series, like especially where Sylvester was involved in them. But
Yeah.
going forward, like, I just feel bad for the guy.
Yeah, I do
That
too. And
sucks.
I also want to point this out too, and people might disagree, but I'm I get when you have a successful at this point franchise that there is this need to do more. I'm cool with you just announcing one project at a time. If it's like, hey, we're gonna do a fourth one, leave it at that. And like to kind of, I know that these kind of things kind of set up like excitement, like oh, like we're gonna do this whole like Creed universe, and there's gonna be TV shows and animated shows and live action shows, like and like maybe more movies and more spin-offs. Like it becomes too much, and then
Yeah.
you get to a point down the line where sometimes these things don't come to fruition, and it's like, well, what happened to that project that you announced? Like, dude, announce like I wouldn't even been mad if they were like, hey, in lieu of a movie, we're gonna do like a spin-off TV series and like and connect with like some of these characters like
Yeah.
that. I actually don't even mind an Ivan Drago spin-off because like the most interesting stuff in Creed 2 was the
Was
Ivan
around
Drago
him.
what was
Yeah.
around him. So
That
like
makes sense.
I don't mind that, but like now it just seems like all right, well, I mean, of course we all know this because we know how these things work. It's just like this is all money. It's all a money thing now at this point. Like
Exactly.
and now you're just gonna milk this thing until it's completely dry, and like, and that
And
is not exciting. I'm excited
and
for
it,
someone like Michael B. Jordan to be like in the position to like to pitch stuff like this, to be producing stuff like this, to be
true.
involved in conversations like that. I think that's cool. I think that's a great thing for like we don't have a lot of that, like a lot of African American like actors like getting to do that as producers and
That's a great point.
creators. But I would say this no matter who it was though, it's just take it one step at a time instead of being like just too much. I don't know.
Instead of throwing a bunch of different things at us, that the half of which probably will never come to light. I also don't
Yeah.
like that it's in Amazon's hands, just with their track record that they have.
Me
They
either.
do have some golden tickets, like with like The Boys and Invincible. Like, I love Amazon for that. And for like even early Yellowstone seasons, but like they
Yeah.
also have some junk in there, and they try and they've messed some stuff up before, and I don't
Yeah.
like where that could head down with that series. Like, even if the series is all right aside from Amazon, once they put their little touch on it, I have a bad
Yeah.
feeling about what that might do for that
Yeah.
property going forward.
Yep. God, I
Seems like
wish I
we're on
could
the
be
same
more.
page.
Yeah, I wish I could. Like, if they had just announced Creed 4, I think I would have been okay with that. I think I would have been like,
Sure,
all right,
then
yeah,
it
I
would make
see it.
sense. Yeah.
Because, like, to me, it is following the same trajectory as, like, the Rocky movies. Like, I mean, I don't mind that you're going to get possibly more sequels because we had a bunch of Rocky sequels. And, like,
Yep.
people love some, people think some are, like, mediocre. But, like, I don't mind the Creed movies getting more installments because one, we hadn't had a bad one yet. They've all been certified fresh. They've all gotten good reviews. We haven't hit like a wall with them yet. So like, I would have been
Right.
happy with another movie. But now like an anime series and a live action TV series and
One at a time is a better
one
approach. Like,
at a time,
yeah,
guys.
we will see
Like,
how that progresses.
oh God! All right. So I wish I could be more excited about it, but I'm just not.
Time will tell how they go, I guess. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm with you, man.
All right. What else do we got here? Just a couple more things to go on. Oh, okay.
We
I will I'll save the Jenna Ortega stuff as we go into the box office for Scream. I will talk about two trailers. I
Yes,
we'll do the one that premiered during the Oscars last night first.
certainly.
We have the first full official trailer for the live action the Little Mermaid coming from Disney. As you know, guys, they have been milking the live action reboots of their properties for a while now. Some I don't mind. I actually thought Aladdin was much better than it had any right to be. I didn't hate The
Guy
Lion
Ritchie
King.
directed.
Yeah, I didn't hate
Yeah,
The Lion King, but it was also not necessary. Actually, none of these are really necessary.
they're
Um,
not. It's just the next step
uh,
of evolution in film, and
yeah, Beauty and
it's
the Beast
bound to
was
happen.
fine. Like,
That was when it
um,
started it all, wasn't it?
Cinderella. They actually went like kind of
Cinderella.
like
Yeah,
yeah, they
you're
went
right.
kind of like smaller scale, and then they were like, all right, now let's go for our like
Uh,
let's go for our golden age. uh,
yeah.
First full trailer. Some of the effects in the trailer look decent, and then some like look like it's not a finished movie. Yeah,
Okay. Interesting.
I couldn't like I was like some of it I was like, all right, that looks neat, and then some of it was like, oh, I don't maybe it needs a little bit more work.
Did any shots like come to mind, like off the top of your head, or?
There was like some stuff where they were like some of the underwater stuff where they were like showing her like talking with like King Triton, and like some of the tracking shots of her swimming like with the other fish and stuff.
Yeah.
Like like some of it looked good and some of it looked like too. I think that kind of live action's so hard to do because it looks too fake that it like I don't know. It's like hard. I'm trying to find the
You
best way to articulate
you
it,
know
but
what
like
is
it.
hilarious about
But
this? Because like I was watching this just before we recorded. I watched it obviously on screen last night, but it was a little bit different. So I watched this before we started recording, knowing we would talk about it. And I have on my notes right here, Little Mermaid hyphen effects look great.
all right.
I actually was impressed. I was maybe I just had lower expectations. I was like, damn, like the underwater stuff, like her as a mermaid, like the ship on fire. I'm like, damn, this actually like looks all right. I guess maybe I was at lower expectations, but I
I mean,
didn't notice.
I don't think it looks awful. Maybe I was just being like looking into
You
it
know
too
what? I'm
much.
sure I just missed some stuff that or didn't don't have the eye for some of like the more technical,
Yeah,
unfinished looking shots. But I did found that it looked good. It's kind of funny that we
different
both
ideas.
mentioned that. Yeah.
So we got like a bit of a we got more of a look at Javier Bardem as King Triton playing her father.
Right.
We got
Awesome.
a little bit more of a look at Melissa McCarthy playing Ursula. I actually think that from what I saw looks pretty decent because I think
I,
that would be kind of hard to like recreate live
yeah.
action wise, and I
She
think her
sounds
casting
good.
I think her casting is perfect. Like
I think
I
it's a
know
good
like
casting too.
some people are like hit or miss with her, but like I
I
think that
miss. I'm not a Melissa McCarthy fan.
like
No, no,
no,
I won't. I don't not
100%
like
miss.
her as a person. I just don't find like again, I'm hard on comedians and comedy, but I do agree that her casting in this is good and her voice she's nailing it
Yeah,
from
yeah,
what we hear from her.
completely. And then speaking of voices, Halle Bailey, I gotta make sure to say it right because
Right?
I always want to slip
Yeah.
and say Halle Berry.
Yeah.
I mean, I when she got cast, I like looked up stuff that she'd done on like that was on YouTube and everything. She has a great voice, but like,
Yeah.
I mean, showcasing it tenfold in the trailer, like, I just really hope. I mean, whenever they've dropped images and footage from this movie, there are a lot of like really ignorant people that are still like,
Of course.
why is Ariel black? And I just always go like, Ariel's a fictional character.
Exactly. Like,
So
what are you worked up about?
she could be whoever she wants to be. like
That's
I
right.
and like it's just like stop being so up. And I know some people are gonna be like, oh, they were doing that because they're trying to be woke. That's why they cast a black girl. And like this is going on to a smaller extent with that Peter Pan and Wendy movie because they cast a black girl to play Tinkerbell.
Right.
It's ridiculous at this point. Like let the
It's
girl
not
like
going
have her
away though.
let the girl have her moment, and like I'm sure this is like a big deal for her, a big accomplishment for her, like, and to kind of take that away with like a lot of ignorance and like honestly like blatant racism on from some
Exactly.
people, like it's ridiculous to me. But I was happy to see that there were a lot of comments too that kind of just talked about her voice, talked about how great she sounded. I'm still gonna see it because
Oh yeah.
so like there's like the core, yeah, four Disney animated movies that I love that like
Okay.
and Lion King's my favorite, then Aladdin, then The Little Mermaid, and then Beauty and the Beast. Those are like the
All
four that like
greats. All
the four, and
classics.
those are considered like a lot like the golden age of Disney. Like so, like Little Mermaid came out in '89, I believe. And it was like right after they had like a bunch of misses with like the Black Cauldron and like a few other ones that like flopped. And so
Oh
The
yes.
Little Mermaid kind of sparked this like new kind of Disney renaissance, and they kind of continued with Beauty and the Beast, and that got nominated for Best Picture. I think it was the first animated movie to be nominated for Best Picture.
It was nominated for
Uh,
Best Picture, not even like
yeah.
Best Anime.
So
Wow.
back then, because back then they didn't even have an animated category, and that was something they did like years down the
Interesting.
line. And then you get Aladdin, and then you get The Lion King, and it all went to shit with like Pocahontas, and there was like another lull.
Ah,
but
and
those
then we
four
get
like
this live action
yeah. So I
time
actually love
era.
like the Little Mermaid's like a fun movie, like has fun characters. Like Sebastian's a fun character. Like
Yeah,
Flounder,
he's awesome.
it
Yeah.
has great music. Like I think like the songs are really good. So I will see it the same way I saw The Lion King, which is just because
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
for sure. With trepidation, but
I know the
you,
IP and like whatever. We'll see how it
yes.
goes. Um,
Also,
yeah.
speaking of Flounder, Jacob Tremblay is cast as Flounder. I did
Well,
some
there,
digging and
yeah,
found that out. Yeah, he's 16 now. He looks completely different than he even looked a few years ago. It's
yeah.
crazy.
I feel like
Growing like a weed.
I know we got introduced to him when he was a child,
Yeah.
and then he was in that Predator movie, which was really
Oh
awful.
my God.
And then I feel like
I try to forget about
he
that.
yeah, it's crazy that he's 16 because I feel like there's certain actors when you get introduced to them at a certain age that
Yeah.
are almost frozen in time for me.
And he felt that way.
Like it took a while for me with like Dakota Fanning. Like when she got older, I was like, oh, that's weird. You're still like the little girl from like I Am Sam. Like what's going
Right?
on? Or
Haley
the little
Joel
girl from like
Osment comes to
yeah.
mind. Yeah.
Like, shouldn't you be in like Man on Fire with Denzel Washington? Why are you like an adult? Uh,
Right.
but yeah. Like you said, sprung up like a weed. I don't know.
Crazy.
I'll still see it. I'll give it a shot. Of course,
For
it comes
sure.
out on May 26th. In case you guys are interested in seeing it in theaters, and we don't have to spend long on this trailer. I mean, I just uh, there's this movie called Ghosted. I wish you could see Jackson's face. Um,
Ooh.
it's like this action rom com. I think it's gonna be on Apple TV Plus, starring Anna de Armas and Chris Evans,
I
which is
love
like
that casting together, man.
which is like this is like the third movie they made together. They were in Knives Out
Yeah.
together,
You
and then
think
they were
there's a
in
thing there?
they're in the Gray. I think he
You think
has a
there's a thing?
girlfriend. Oh, I don't know. They could be a thing.
Or yeah, or maybe he's married. I don't know. I
I think
love
he
them
has a
together
girlfriend.
though, man.
And then they're in the Gray Man together, and then now they're in this, and they could clearly. I mean, originally this was the female lead was supposed to be Scarlett Johansson, but she had to drop out for
Oh,
scheduling reasons. And you know what? He's worked with her, of course, a lot too, so that would have been a fun thing for them to get together.
they have great
Um,
chemistry as well.
so here's what I gathered from the trailer, which I thought was like an interesting concept to have, like the idea of being ghosted. I mean, everyone knows what that is when you like you
Yeah.
hook up with someone or you're seeing someone and they just kind of like fall off the face of the planet with no warning, no phone call,
Right.
like nothing, right? And I can imagine this idea being pitched, being like, all right, she ghosted him, right? But then it turns out, like, then you throw in the whole like action, like, stupid spy element or
Spy
whatever,
angle. Yeah, yeah,
spy
yeah.
angle. So I could see like someone being really excited in the room, like, see, like it's original. It sounds good. I think it's one of those things that's gonna be purely based how much I enjoy it is how good they are together. If they can sell me on it,
Right.
and I think they can because they are pretty good together. Um, but I was more thrown by like there's a guy named Sully Streams on Twitter that listens to the show too, and he posted the poster from it, and it's like him laying down, and then she's kind of like over him, and there's kind of like explosions in the background. But he
Okay.
said he was like, I can't tell if this is like a movie or an ad for a new fragrance. And like when you look at it's not. It's just really selling the like her sex appeal and his smolder, and that's about
Right.
it. So if you're going to go see it for that, I mean,
Yeah. I mean, I would go
and
watch
you don't have to
anything
pay
with
to
Anna
see
de
it.
Armas in it.
It's on Apple TV Plus, and
Oh,
you stream
true.
that.
You don't even got to leave your
So
house.
so
Um,
it looks funnish.
It looks like it could be fun. Honestly, it's one of those weird things where, like, I'll say, like, the trailer, I didn't laugh once. I even have written, like, I don't think it looked funny, but I have a feeling maybe the trailer just didn't pick good moments from it to advertise. Like, I think there's the premise alone is actually, like, again, I'm not a huge, like, rom-com action kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, not serious action movie kind of guy, but I think the premise of that alone looks like it could be funny, have some good moments. I don't think the trailer did a good job showing those moments, though. But I
Yeah.
would check it out.
You know what I wrote down next to it when I initially posted it and I knew we were gonna have to talk about it for this. I said I'm getting like Red Notice vibes from it. Like it has that same kind of like
Right.
these three like in that case of that movie, three very appealing like charismatic stars,
Right.
and what appears to be could be like a really like subpar like generic action movie. So like you're only selling me on the fact that like, oh, like we love Gal Gadot, we love Ryan Reynolds, and we love Dwayne Johnson. Like I think this is selling us on like everyone loves Aaron Darmus now, and everyone
Mhm.
loves Captain America, Chris Evans.
Of course.
So like
I just love
it's
yeah.
that's what it's selling me on. And like I said, I don't know if I would see it in theaters. There are some people on Twitter that thought it would probably do well if it came out in
Oh,
theaters.
yeah, I'm sure it would.
I'm still on the fence on like how much of a box office draw either one of them is outside of bigger properties.
Really?
Yeah, outside of like him as
Even
Marvel.
Chris.
Yeah.
Interesting. I
Like,
guess I don't really have much of an opinion. I'm just curious, like interested to hear that because
not to
I
say that
love.
he's not to say he's not popular and that people don't like him, but I don't know if he is a name above the movie kind of guy where it's like, oh, I'll see it because he's in it.
Right.
Uh,
Honestly, and come to think of it, a lot of his big post Marvel projects have been streaming releases, so we don't really know what
yeah,
he's like
and
at
then
the
he was
box
in, of course, he
office.
was in Knives Out, but that was an ensemble. I don't think that. I mean, that was more of the
Yes.
cast was a selling point, but
Oh,
I think
Anna was in
the
that too. Yeah.
yeah, and I think and that was kind of like her big, real big break into yeah. So I mean, I it'll probably be a fun diversion at home. I can't imagine it. I can't imagine me thinking about it much after it's over. Like
No.
when I watched Red Notice, the one thing I thought was like, this was fine in the moment. I probably won't think about this movie tomorrow, and that's how I kind of was on that
I
as
caught
well.
like 15 minutes of Red Notice and like my brain melted. Like I
And
was
they
like,
had
what
the
the fuck
and
am
they
I
had to
watching?
nerve to be like almost 2 hours long, or maybe a little over 2 hours. I was like,
Oh
calm down,
my
guys.
god.
But if any of you are interested in getting ghosted, that'll hit Apple TV Plus on
That was
April 20
slick.
on April 21st. All right, so we can discuss this General Ortega stuff because it's going to relate to us talking box office and
Yes.
predicting next week's box office. Um, General Ortega had a big weekend. I mean, I feel like she's had a big
It's a
year
big fucking year.
that
Yeah.
hasn't
Even
stopped because like
even
there's
big
stuff.
2022. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're finding out that she's getting cast in like some really interesting projects. Some of them like smaller, some of them bigger. This one is not official yet, but she is. I've there's two different ways to say it. Like some people in the industry says in talks, and then other people say she's circling.
Right. Yeah. Just
Beetlejuice too,
synonyms. Yeah.
which is but when I first saw it and heard it, I was like, well, "That's perfect." She seems like she's like that's like right up her alley based on like the creative choices she's been making.
Yep.
Um, if it does happen, it would keep her in line with Tim Burton, who directed the Wednesday Netflix series. So she has a good working relationship with him. Um, there's been some stuff with her too over the weekend where I think she criticized the writing for Wednesday, where she said that like
Oh.
she basically said, and I don't think she meant anything offensively by it, but people who are writers kind of took offense to it,
Uh,
where she was kind of like, I felt like there were things that like the character wouldn't do, so she put her foot down about not wanting to do certain things. Like she didn't think that Wednesday would be in a love triangle, like the character, and I kind of agree that that character wouldn't
I
want to do
agree with
that.
that too. Good for
And then
her.
and then the whole like dance thing, like it was supposed to be a flash mob like dance scene, and she was like, "Well,
Oh.
I don't think that that character would be evolved in like a dance scene with a big group of people like that."
And they
And
they
and,
listened to her and made
and
it
they
all
listen
about
and they listened to
wow.
her. So like, but there was like people
Good
were
for
like,
both of
"Well."
them.
They were like, "Well, she shouldn't have said anything publicly about it because it sounds like she's dissing them." But if you read it, I don't think she is dissing them. I think she just
Right.
it's like there's a big debate on whether or not when you get cast as something, like you're the face of it and you're representing it, like how much say do you have as like the actor, and then how much say does the writer who's like, hey, these are my words and this is my story,
You
you
know,
know?
that's why they call it a collaboration, right? Like even
Right,
though you shouldn't an actor shouldn't necessarily have any more authority over the work. They should have a say and they should at
yeah,
least be listened to, even if they're not,
exactly.
even if the advice isn't followed.
I agree, and
Good for
she,
them.
you know, and I think she's in good standing with them because she's an executive producer on season two of
That
Wednesday.
seems so.
This girl's 20 years old. And, like let's throw that out there.
Holy
Um,
shit.
so Beetlejuice 2 has been talked about for a very long time for everyone that is unaware of it. I think almost since the first one came out in 88, there's been some talk of a sequel, and we've heard about it a lot in recent years, but like
Oh boy.
this is the most gas that he has gotten in a while where I think Michael Keaton is still attached to play Beetlejuice.
I like
Um,
that.
Tim Burton is attached to direct it. Winona Ryder could be still attached as Lydia, and if Jenna Ortega takes the part, she would most likely be playing Lydia's daughter in Beetlejuice 2. Um, I think it's good casting. Um, was that yesterday or like when someone like when we were on that show, or did someone else mention to me that it's good casting, but they're afraid that she might
Get
be
typecast.
typecast, like
I was
playing that
just
kind of
thinking
part.
this, and I thought that so this was mentioned not in my presence. I did hear this somebody like I think I read this in a comment. Somebody mentioned this, and I
Yeah,
kind of was on board with that. Like I was
yeah,
thinking that, but literally during this recording, I talked myself out of that. Think of how many collaborators that Tim Burton has worked with on multiple movies who have gone on to do other things. Also,
yeah.
she's done one maybe other role where she's kind of like in that
Like
similar role, and it was with
sullen,
Tim
very like
Burton.
yeah, with Tim
So
Burton,
like
yeah,
emo kind of goth girl.
emo
I
goth girl,
and
yeah,
she's done enough, I think, like close to other projects that I don't think that is an issue. I kind of talked myself out of that line of thinking, but I get why that
no,
might
what,
have been a conversation. I
yeah,
don't buy it anymore. Maybe
yeah,
though. Maybe.
but I
He does
mean,
it
but
well.
it's also, I mean, I think it's good for if those talks. I mean, I I don't think the talks. This is me speculating. I don't think it comes down to like stuff like money. I think that's kind of like easily for her that could be worked out because she's still fairly new. She's hot, but she's new. I
Yeah.
think I think what's going to come down to is scheduling because she's attached to like
Yeah.
so many. She's attached to so many
Busy
things.
lady.
Like she's attached to like there was one movie that she's doing with like the weekend.
Oh
And,
shit, what's that called again?
God, and I think it's the guy who did the movie Waves. It's like his follow up to that.
Trey Edward
And
Schultz.
yeah, it's his follow up to
Yeah.
that. And like one
Nice.
of the stipulations for her signing on, and same with the weekend, who's also busy, was like they know they have other things lined up, but they wanted to make that movie a priority because they really wanted to work on it. So they're in a
Okay.
position where like they're busy, and I think that's what it's going to come down to for this. But like hopefully they work it out because it seems like perfect casting and
I
you
think
know
so.
and for her, strike while the iron's hot. I don't think she's going anywhere anytime soon.
Love the work that she's lining up for herself too. Is she's making all
Yeah,
these right choices. I hope it all
yeah,
goes that way. It seems like she's really a shining star.
I agree. And on
It's
that note, we
exciting.
can talk about how she shined even more over the weekend.
Yeah.
Scream Six. We
We
knew it was
were
gonna make
off,
some.
weren't we?
We were, well, you know what? We were close-ish. We were close. It
Were
wasn't
we?
too
Okay.
bad.
I can't
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
even where I
It
put it
wasn't too
anyway.
bad. You went above me though. So
Right.
you're actually closer. You're actually
By
off
one
by
million
like
though?
you're off by like I think you said did you go 44?
Yes.
So you're only off by like not that much because it grossed $44.5 million over the weekend.
Oh, okay.
So
Why am
you're
I thinking it
so,
did more
so
than
you're
that?
so you're oh because worldwide the worldwide opening was 67.5 or something
Oh,
like
okay.
that.
Maybe that's what I saw, but I was like,
So
damn, I was
so
low
so
again.
either I had said 40, so I was off. I was close to what tracking had it at. I'm happy to be off though. It's fine. um,
Or you know what? I'm thinking I did 44 for Creed. I think we were only 1 million difference on this
oh,
one.
difference on this one. Okay, okay.
Yeah. So I
Well,
think I
that
was
works too.
41 then.
Well, we were all very close. It opened to 44.5 million over the weekend, which is a record for the near 30-year-old horror series.
By
It
like
beats
10
the
million.
it beats the 3-day opening of Scream 3 that came out in 2000, which made $34.7 million. And then intelligence says that 3.2 million people saw Scream 6 over the weekend, 18% in 3D. And the movie, which is like really indication of like people actually went to go see it, said the movie grabbed 44% of its foot traffic in post 9 p.m. shows on Friday and Saturday.
Nice.
It has a B plus cinema score,
Fair.
which matched the cinema score of the last movie. But post track ratings came in at 87% positive, 74% definite recommend. The last movie had a 59% definitely recommend, and the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes is 92%. So it's actually faring pretty well. And
Shit.
I think it got certified fresh today at 76% by critics. So two movies back to back that were fresh in that franchise.
Nice.
The guys of Radio Silence have really reinvigorated the Scream franchise. It's
Right.
more viable than ever. But I will throw off what some of you guys kind of predicted for this one because some of them were close. Were you expecting? Where I
Yeah,
was
no
actually so
kidding.
you know what's funny because the preview number came in higher. The Thursday preview number was higher than Creed's. It was like 5.7,
Oh,
and I was like, "Ooh,
okay.
can this actually?" Can I was like, "Can this actually make like $50 million this weekend?" But then I forgot that horror movies, no matter how good they are like very front loaded with like rush up business. So I think that's what kind of
Right.
happened too. Um, but yes, at Arturo.xx at 42 million, at Jordan underscore M85 48 million. Merc with the movies 45 to 48 million, all the same
Nice.
range. You know what? Drew review. If you are counting the global opening, you're close. $68 million opening weekend. Um, uh, Bardwell 123. I think might have been thinking what it might gross like overall. It said 150 million internationally. That could have been like a total.
Okay.
Um,
Has to be.
uh, at Jack is cool, I guess 12 $50 million.
What a name.
And then I know that's really awesome. And then at Pato SESNICH 50 to $60 million. Seemed like everyone was like in the same
Yeah. People had
general.
confidence in it.
Oh, and then our Donnie 40 million easily, and then Darren movie reviews 42 million. All very good, all
Damn,
very close.
not bad, people. Well
Great
done.
opening. I mean, the last one topped out at $81 million domestically. I think this one can push through over $100 million
I think you're
domestically.
right.
Horror movies can like kind of drop off pretty hard in the second weekend, and of course, because there's more movies opening, uh, we have another kind of big weekend. I really don't know how to call Shazam: Fury of the Gods.
That's
Um,
this weekend.
yeah, this
Oh,
weekend. And I the only thing I can compare it to, I'll compare it to the last Shazam, and I will tell you that this movie
yeah.
is tracking. This is tracking really low. It's tracking 3840, which is not good for a movie that wants to remain a part of the DCU. Because even the director responding to a tweet that someone said that they didn't want to support the movie because what's the point? And the director was basically like, if you don't support the movie, like the only way that we can't be involved in this, I think, in this new DC universe is if the movie doesn't make money. So if you don't support the movie, then that's pretty much putting a nail in that coffin.
Right.
Um, but it seems like I felt like Warner Brothers wasn't even putting a lot of push into it because it's like I said, you wouldn't have known that it was opening this weekend. There's not a lot
I
of like
forgot. I thought it
push.
was going to be a May release or something.
It's not even a push. So the first Shazam came out in 2019. It opened to, let me just pull it up here. It was a 52, oh no, yeah, $52 million opening weekend. And then it ultimately grossed $140.4 million domestic, and then $366 million worldwide. That was considered decent for a property that's not hugely well known by like most people.
Yeah.
Um, the early reaction to the sequel is good for the most part.
Okay.
But I really don't think that Warner Brothers put enough marketing muscle into it.
I think
And
you're right.
I'm actually okay. I don't even think it get close to 50 million. I'm going with my prediction for what I gave Scream last week, and I'm going at an even 40. I'm going with like what tracking is calling it at. And unless something changes in the next few days,
Right.
and there's suddenly like a huge like TV spots on like television every few seconds, and I can't see it going much higher.
This is also, is it the same thing in the States? We're headed, yeah, because
Yeah,
St. Patrick's Day is on Friday, the
on
17th.
Friday,
It's the same
yeah.
thing. That's
And
a
I will not be.
factor.
I will not be at the movies. No.
I won't be at on the theater. I'll be wasted.
Yeah. Same. I'll probably be texting you about being wasted.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be
Yeah.
catching up about how no one's watching Shazam today.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to weigh that in. Obviously, it won't have much of an impact for like a big core, like the younger side of the DC like fans. You're going with what? What did you say, 40?
I'm at 40. I'm going 40.
And the first
And
one opened at 52?
yeah.
Damn, that's a drop. I'm gonna go. I want to go like what I did with Creed. Like I'm still feeling low, but I want to go a little bit above just in case, gives me some wiggle room. With 44, and I'll
All
write that
right.
down this time.
All right. 40, 44. Um, by the way, I'm going that low, but I never want to see a movie. After I read that director's tweet, I felt for him,
No, oh,
and like,
absolutely.
because it really was like an angry fan just being like, oh, I don't want to support it. Like, what's the point? Like, really, it's like
If that's your
they,
opinion, then like, come
yeah,
on.
like
If you
so many
like it,
people
go
put
see it.
their blood, sweat, and tears in these movies, and
Totally,
this is no exception. I just wish Warner Brothers acted like it was a part of. They are not acting like it's a part of their future plans. I guess the way they were kind of handling it, and like once those early reactions came out, I wish the studio would have been like, all right, let's like use this like a bit. Let's kind of like
totally. May
maybe
as well.
throw this into the marketing. Like, I mean, as soon as the early reactions came out for Scream 6, there was like a TV spot cut together right away that threw in like some of those early responses into the TV spot. Like, do that, like to be like, hey, like this might be a good one.
You
I just
gotta
don't feel like they care. Like,
don't want to leave any
anymore.
money on the table. Go get what you can get from this movie before there's
Yeah,
not going to be Shazam for years.
right, exactly. Um, but yeah, so we'll take your predictions as well for Shazam. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe. I mean, I didn't even think about St. Patrick's Day. You're really right. I mean, that won't matter for the kids, but it won't matter for
For a decent chunk of
anyone
people.
21 and up.
Yeah, and 19 over here, even 18 in some
Oh, that's
provinces.
true.
So
That's
yeah,
true. Yeah.
different.
So
And Europe be
yeah,
different for them
so
too.
that's going to be a big factor. But yeah, give us all of your predictions, and we'll reveal them on the one of our next episodes.
Absolutely.
And
And
yeah,
shout
what
to
were you gonna say?
us. We kept all this stuff to right around 2 hours. So I think we were
Well, it's
really
good because it
effective
was
today.
yeah, it was a lot to cover, but we knew we had to like get some of these things in. But I want to say we got some stuff coming up. Like we said, we're gonna do an episode that's totally dedicated to Scream 6, so we can actually talk about it in detail. So
Yep.
that's gonna be a spoiler-filled discussion, and we haven't finalized the guests yet, but we are sending some people on to join us to talk about the movie. It's all kind of based on like when they're seeing it. As of this recording, some of them are seeing it tonight, some tomorrow. So we're gonna figure out how to do it then. Um, we also I have a Spring Breakers anniversary episode coming up, and I know Jackson said he didn't like the movie before when he saw it.
This is a long time ago, though.
So it'll be funny to have a rewatch and discuss it.
Big time. I'm
'Cause,
I'm excited for this
dude,
rewatch.
I had a similar thing with our Mr. Brooks deep dive episode that came out
Oh,
today
okay.
because I liked the movie and then Owen hadn't seen it before, and it was just funny to hear like complete opposite reaction to the one I had.
Right.
So yeah, it could be the same thing. It's fun though. It's fun. We don't always agree.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that honestly adds a lot to the conversation. I love to agree on stuff and to share and highlight the things we loved about it, but like just makes for just a more dynamic discussion when
yeah,
you're focusing on different aspects that you didn't
I
agree on.
agree. And then
Just
on
really. Oh,
oh,
sorry.
yeah,
Go ahead.
I want to throw in too. Speaking of Owen, the week that John Wick comes out, Owen will be on this show with us. So there'll be like the first time that you and him are going to record together.
Yeah. Ooh,
So
yeah.
like we have an episode about like the John Wick series as a whole, but like more about how it's kind of influenced action films like in a relatively short amount of time since the first one came out. Owen's a huge fan of that franchise, so it felt like a perfect episode for him to uh,
Jump in with.
jump in
Totally.
on. We're gonna work out the timing on that. As far as like the actual timing, that's because you are ahead of us. You're in the future.
Yeah. Make it a little harder.
But since we are already planned it and it's like kind of like we know it's coming, like we can make sure we get that done. But
Yeah.
it's gonna be a fun one. Like we're looking forward to doing that, so you guys can finally get an episode in together.
Yeah, I'm really excited to work with Owen and
Yeah,
chat with him because we haven't even like really had a chance to meet yet. So
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
really looking forward to that, and I'm just excited to dive back into the John Wicks again too. But
yeah.
real quick before we depart, I just wanted to see if there would be a chance to shout out the show that we were featured on yesterday, or was it only filmed? Like, was it only live?
I think it
Was it?
was live. I think they do
Okay,
because, but it is a podcast too. So I think they actually do release episodes of Unfiltered.
unfiltered, right?
Filtered, yeah. They are like Alex Helmer and Guy Knoll. Alex actually started the League of Cinephiles on Instagram, where he
So he did
basically
start it. Okay,
he
I wasn't
started it,
sure.
and then he basically recruited a bunch of Instagram pages. Like he messaged people individually, like, hey, like
Yourself
you want to be?
included. I saw
Yeah,
you on
yeah.
there.
I
Yeah,
think I got asked like season 2 or 3,
that's pretty
something
sweet.
like that. And it keeps growing. And like, what's cool is that like he vets it, but not to a point where it's like, oh, you can't join. Like he really wants people who are like passionate about the movies to be a part of it. So I think that's what's really cool about the whole thing is that like everyone that's there is like having a good time discussing it. And he does some really fun like trivia shows. Like there's a lot of different things that they
I've
do.
seen over
Yeah,
the
if you do,
last couple of
yeah,
years. Pretty cool stuff.
the YouTube stuff is so fun and like yeah, he's just a really good guy. And he always like wants to support all of us, and we got to be on their Sunday morning show yesterday, which was a lot of fun.
Oh, it was a blast.
First thing, laughing that
Shout
hard.
out to
First
those
thing,
boys.
well, because the night before I was out with my friends, and I was telling some of the people, like I was laughing so hard with my friends that like my face hurt, and I was like, all right, at least maybe in the morning I can recover from that. And then like Guy, they're all funny, but Guy specifically is
He's the comedian.
hilarious. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
hilarious. And I was just laughing so hard my face hurt. So yeah, shout out to them. Like they will probably be on our show eventually at some point because we have
that's right.
a lot of things coming up. And yeah, they were really great to kind of chat with them. And I said it on their show yesterday. It was the first thing that we got invited on as like a pair, like doing the
Yeah,
show together. So
big
like
moment for us.
it really felt like it's like an our thing rather than like a, oh, can you be on? And like if you can get the other guy, cool.
Right,
I'm,
yeah.
I'm glad I'm glad that they asked. I was still like, hey, like see if he can come on too. So I thought that was like really good. Like it felt
Totally.
like we already feel like a team, but that kind of made it feel like even more so.
That's
So
right.
so
It
thank
felt
you to
great.
them for letting
Yeah,
us come on and chop it up with you guys. It was fun.
certainly. Yeah, no, I had a blast. All right, man.
All right.
Well, we got a lot in there today and did it pretty good. I'm impressed with us. I thought this one could have went a lot longer, so it was nice. But for
Yeah.
those of you that stuck with us for this conversation, we appreciate your attention and viewership as always. Thank you very much for tuning in for another week, guys. At Back to the Blockbuster. As always, you can find for all your movie news, find us on Instagram at Back to the Blockbuster. We're on TikTok as well with the same handle. And you can listen to us on a weekly basis anywhere you get your podcasts on Apple, Spotify, Good Pods, and Google playlists as well. So thanks again, Gaius. Always a pleasure, my friend.
Always a pleasure. Thank you. I know it was a lot, but we got through it.
Oh
And we
man, it
do
was
this,
great.
and we do this for you guys. So I just hope you know
Totally.
it's fun. It's fun for us. But we're glad you even hang out with us and listen to us this long. We greatly appreciate it. And that's true of both shows. Honestly, it's been a very kismet kind of thing going on with like
Mhm.
both things, and I'm just really excited what we can offer you on this and then on the spinoff. And like the future of it is like very bright. So like we want you guys
Yes,
to
it
be a part
is.
of it. So thank you so much for continuing to tune in. Jackson, you're a big part of that. Thank you as well for always being on your A game. And until next time,
Love you guys. See you later.
peace.